somebody that's already dead? How are we going to kill somebody that's already dead? It's because of men like you that all must be destroyed. It's because of men like you that all must be destroyed. None of those risks have been seen, at least not by anyone who still remains alive. None of those risks have been seen, at least not by anyone who still remains alive.
It's our brain treatment we're giving to you. You are a robot, that's all you are. Better not change your mind. You just better not.
10,
Better not change your mind. You just better
8,
not.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, and thank you for coming to the only show on the internet, Tangents. It is our 1-year anniversary show. To think, it's been a whole year. A year ago, I was young and blonde and a woman. And now here I am, the host of Tangents.
Quite the odyssey.
I know, right? Quite an adventure. I have a whole story about Tangents, but we'll get into that for a minute. In the meantime, the whole crew is here tonight. Hello, crew.
Hello.
Hello.
Jeff, what's new in your world?
Oh boy. Like we didn't see that coming.
It came. Scorp announced a new sequencer. I said 10 seconds of deliberation is adequate for that, and then I ordered it. And now it's here. It's great. That's it. There's nothing else.
Nothing.
I don't even know what else is going on.
There is no
I have
news
no
after
choice.
that. He's just gonna.
Your
Jeff's
life
gonna be
is
sitting there.
completed.
Is the show over yet? I want to go play. I want to go play. Damn it. SynthLab, thank you for the well wishes. Robin, how have you been, buddy?
I've been all right. I feel so tired this week. It's been between Synthfest this past weekend. That's just been a crap ton of 303 goodness, and it's kind of been nice to settle in and be like, maybe I should just listen to some ambient
I saw your
music for
YouTube
a
post
while.
today of the ambient tune, and I'm like, good. There's no squelching
Yeah,
bass line sounds. I'm sure you're sick of it as like I am.
Don't get me wrong, I love those sounds, but I go through phases where I'm like, if there's so much of one genre of music, after a while, I'm like, I have to switch it before I never hear it again. So it's like, yep, the next week or two, I'm like full ambient down tempo mood.
I've
Check.
been listening to nothing but Lawrence Welk since Sunday. Although I did go back and I watched your VOD. Excellent show. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Christoph, how are you?
A whole year
A
of
whole
this, huh?
fucking year.
Guess that's it.
That's all he's got to say.
That's all I got.
Yeah. No, I got nothing. So this week, all I got is streaming on Spike Club. I don't DJ until the 25th and the 26th, where I'll be DJing Stimulate New York City, and then the 26th, the return of DEF CON at the legendary Pyramid for one night only. So I'm super
Awesome.
excited about that.
Great. Justin, how are you?
I'm all right. Hanging in there. I'm doing stuff. Working on that single for Subselma, which I'm working on dropping all the stems for to do a remix. And I'm doing it extremely tediously the way you'd want. That I'm like stems with effects, stem without, stem with pan, stem without, so you can have fun.
I will have all the fun.
So that's leading to many stem tracks, and I apologize.
That's
in
okay.
advance.
I like Stems Without Pants. That's my new band name.
I like it. I've been a very bad person, and I picked up the Waldorf M.
Oh.
And yeah, I really like it. It's got all the sort of gutsiness that I expected it to have, and it actually doesn't replace the Iridium at all. It's actually very fits into a nice little space there. So
nice. Now,
yeah, I used it on this track already.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to hearing it. Robin, you recently picked up a synth too, didn't you?
Yeah, I swear to God, Andrew, you have such bad influence. I mean, I think it's just because we have very similar tastes in things. So yeah, I managed to pick up a used Novation Peak, and oh gosh, yep, it's so good.
It's
It's
one of my
it's
faves.
so good. It's just such a good balanced workhorse, and it's just like I could do almost anything with it. It's really that with the Deluge
Oh, yeah.
together is just like
Congratulations, Robin.
Yeah.
Exciting.
It's a great.
I don't own one only because I can't own all the things, but I would say that it does qualify as like a desert island synth in a big way. Like, I mean, really, it's covered. It's got virtual analog covered. You can't even tell, and so much goodness. So awesome.
Absolutely. Hello, Ian. Welcome. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, Ian.
Hope you're
Good to
feeling
see you.
better. Very good. I didn't buy any synths this week. I did reorganize some stuff in here, and I played Synthfest last weekend with the 303 thing, and I didn't make the 303 sound too 303-ish at times. And then I've been working a lot and stuff. And today I was reminiscing about how it was a little over a year ago when I found myself in San Francisco in eating Chinese food in Chinatown in a converted cargo container that was cut off at the top for windows because of the pandemic. You couldn't eat inside. And this restaurant just put it right on the street. And there were firecrackers going off, and it was raining, and it was Blade Runner, and it was crazy. And I was sitting there with my partner Stasha, and I said, I bet Justin and Christoph, if they were here, we would talk about this for like 6 hours.
The first thing I would do is say 2, 2, 4.
And noodles.
With noodles.
And
Yeah.
and it was just one of those moments where I'm like, I wish, because throughout my life with these people here, like Justin and I would have conversations of just going off on whatever. We would start somewhere, usually a synthesizer topic, and the next thing we know, we'd be talking about J.G. Ballard or something like that, and then we'd just go off on these tangents. And every time Christoph and I would hang out, it would be the same kind of thing where we would just talk about one thing and then go off on these other weird, crazy tangents and stuff. And then I've decided, we need to have, the internet needs a show because there's no shows on the internet. And the topic of this show, since I've invented shows on the internet, I could choose the topic.
A groundbreaking
Indeed.
innovation. Someday someone
Maybe
else will
one
do
day. Not
Someday.
today, though.
It. If you release the
Exactly.
secret.
And so I decided that was going to be the thing, and I wanted Christoph and Justin to know each other. And I told Stasha, I'm going to start this show, and people are going to fucking hate it. And here we are. And
I'm sorry, Justin.
and then
What's
Christoph.
I'm sorry that you know me now, Justin.
Oh, I'm sorry you know me. It's excellent.
And then Christoph introduced Jeff into this whole story and dragged him in. It was supposed to be a guest appearance, but we liked Jeff so much. One day on Basecamp, it said co-host next to his name. And he's been doomed ever since because he can go off on fucking tangents like a motherfucker. And
Yeah, it helps that Jeff has natural
and
charisma.
beautiful hair.
Yeah, he does have the Kavorka for
Mhm.
sure.
hmm
Well, not to knock your hair, Andrew, which is
And
lovely.
gone.
You just bleached it too bright, so now
Yes,
it's transparent.
Indeed. Now it looks great in a hat. And then
But we have its transparent
It's true.
loveliness.
And then I met Robin, and we hung out at KnobCon, and we were going off on stupid subjects left and right. So I just thought
Yep.
Robin should be on tangents too.
To provide some levity from you, I don't know.
Because if worst comes to worst, Robin can stab us all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're all scared shitless
Yeah.
of Robin, and that's why she's on the show.
She brings some sense.
I'm not. I long for the sweet embrace of the everlasting caress of
Fair.
death.
Yeah. Nice.
Just the fact that you know that it's there, that I could use it if I choose to, but it's probably not going to happen.
This week.
See?
Probably.
And it's the Dread Pirate.
So, we had
Robert's
it covered. we
The
all
Dread
got
Pirate Robin.
Yeah. Oh no. There.
I love
there
this.
you go.
Oh, good. All I need is another
Oh.
nickname to go on stream. Please
Yep,
don't.
it's on.
Hasn't Womber given me like
I love
20
that.
already?
The Dread Pirate Robin. Oh my god.
The one thing I need to add, Andrew, is that if we were all sitting in San Francisco, I would have dragged you all to the Vintage Synth Museum, which is now no longer in.
Christoph, you wouldn't have had to
Oh.
drag us.
Dragged, he
Yeah.
says.
Dragged it.
Did you
Suffering.
go?
I did not.
Yeah, and you know about it. That's why
Yeah,
I
but
say
it wouldn't
drag.
have been a drag. It would have been like, oh, no, I would have dragged Stasha, and she would have been like, oh, please, is this done yet?
Yes, which is what you should have done.
So,
You
but
said
however,
they moved to Microsoft.
They moved it to LA
however, I'm going to be in LA in May, so
and LA.
maybe I'll go then. Oh, we're coming to Synth Lab's
You
basement.
can't have it better.
Synth Lab has quite a collection in his basement as well.
A vintage synthesizer museum, maybe.
May possibly.
I will gladly come to your basement.
Although it kind of
Synth Lab.
sounds more
Where
like
is
a
it?
weird dungeon kind of shit, like he's gonna like throw us into a pit and tell us to put lotion all over ourselves. You know, of a little dog.
It
I mean,
sounds
I'm down.
perfect.
I mean, it,
Will there still
Yeah.
be,
yeah.
I mean,
will there still
trade-offs.
be sizes there? Because I'm open. You know, I
Right?
just want to be.
It's
It's
true.
the best of both worlds,
Yeah.
really.
I don't want to get ashy. You know,
Fair.
That is a problem.
I gotta
yes.
be at the Synth Wash.
Yeah, I mean, plus eventually we'll get the hose and it'll even
That's
itself
true.
out. It's-
That's
it's
true.
fine.
It
I
all
love
works
getting the
out
hose
one way
again.
or another.
Precious. So yeah, so here we are, 1 year. And to start things off, because we have a whole lot of news, because all the synthesizer companies realize that it's our 1 year anniversary, and they decided that, well, since NAMM isn't happening, but Tangents is, we're going to make all these announcements.
We are the new
We
music
are,
mess.
because Music Mess, we can strike that. You can put that story up right now. Music Mess is no more, and there's one piece of news that we don't have to cover later on.
Because
yes,
of
because of
Tangents.
Tangents.
Everybody covered that, but you heard it here first. It's
Yes,
because of
absolutely. Look at us go. So, but before we go into this, Jeff, why don't you tell us a little bit about what we've got going on now?
Well, we had realized that here we are in 1 year, or having completed 1 year of doing this, and so we were thinking about something to do. And much to our chagrin, there is, of course, the terrible crisis going on in Ukraine, and so we decided to try to do something to use our little spot of the internet for some good. And so we made a fundraiser to raise money for the Center for Disaster Philanthropy, which is an organization that does a lot of work for this exact kind of thing. And we've got T-shirts, and here's a link. And so if you would like to commemorate Tangents and also do some good along the way, we have shirts, a couple different styles. We have the unisex shirt and the ladies cut shirt. And we priced them how we did so we could get more money in donations. So that's where we are.
And all the money
So these are
goes to
not-
them.
Yeah, that's right. So the money goes to the Center for Disaster Philanthropy, and you get a great shirt, and of course on the back, if you click the link and see, you will notice that of course you will get to support the only show on the internet since 2021.
Thanks, Robin. for banning that motherfucker.
No problem.
Hacker 696. Take that. Well, anyway, that is awesome. And Jeff, thank you again for helping getting all that set up.
Of course.
As I was telling folks, you get to donate to a good cause and get a Tangents t-shirt as well. And that link will be link's in the bot, so it'll be popping up every 15 minutes as well. So you can click on that and get your order on. I know I'm going to be ordering at least 2 of them. And
yeah. And so you can, so like spoiler alert for anybody who doesn't know this, I work for Custom Ink, and so that's why I suggested Custom Ink and t-shirts. But there's a pretty cool system here that you can donate extra if you want to. I'm gonna buy a shirt. I'm gonna throw in a big chunk extra on top of it too. And yeah, it's a good system.
Awesome. So yeah, I expect everyone to be in Tangents t-shirts next time I see them.
They probably won't be here then because we're leaving it up for 28 days. So I think that the next time we see you will not be in 28 days.
Physically,
so it's
face to face.
Okay.
I
yeah.
want the Tangents army. Sorry, Christoph.
The army now has a uniform.
Yeah, see that? Our fans. I'm looking at you, Commander Root. You'd better have a Tangent t-shirt on.
You're gonna feel so bad when one day Commander Root talks, and you find out that he's actually like a really devoted fan. He's just really into this.
It's been the long game, the really long game.
You're gonna feel so bad.
And he's in a walking wheelchair, and that's why he doesn't respond.
Wow. You just amped up the guilt factor.
Yeah,
there,
wow,
Christoph.
I almost feel bad about that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So, news. So much news, everybody. We're gonna go ahead and jump in here because this is probably gonna go well over time. We're gonna start off with Behringer. So
we're not going to do Music Mess first.
Oh yeah, we should let's bump Music Mess up in here so we can pop that out of the way. So before we get into Behringer, because there's gonna be enough Behringer, Music Mess in Frankfurt, the long-running music showcase extravaganza trade show is no more in its current format. They canceled because of COVID last year, and now they just kind of pulled the plug on the whole thing. Back in the day, it was like a big deal, but in recent years, apparently it's been getting less and less important. And then Tangents came along and we just kind of sealed the deal because we are not only the only show on the internet, we are a living trade show.
We are a music mess.
We definitely are a mess. And
But I think we thrive on
so
that,
so do our fans. So end of trade show. Someone's echoing me. That is. So yeah, thoughts on that, folks? What do we think about that? Is it the end of trade shows as we know it?
I mean, they still have Subarus,
Yeah.
right? That's still a thing. I mean, it's probably. I mean, it's one of those things that I definitely think that the world has changed because of all this crap. And I mean, even here in Chicago, like driving around Broadway in the neighborhoods, every other storefront is just closed, and it's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. Areas that were really busy districts, and there's a whole area, for example, that sells vintage furniture that we liked, and of the 3 places, one of them closed. It's just like on the edge. So if you're the thing or you're not doing as well, you're more likely probably to be a victim of this.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I would buy that some trade shows are dead. That that would track for me, but a lot of trade shows too are so heavily focused on industry, not end consumers. And if you're I don't know, like I've been to I've exhibited at CES and E3 and PAX for many years, and one of the things that you find at CES is that there's a lot of new technology that gets shown, and there's prototypes, and companies aren't going to like take the prototype to every retailer that might want to see it, and they're sure not going to let you do a virtual thing where you might be able to record it or something like that. Security at a lot of these things is pretty tight. So, I think that there's maybe some are, but a lot won't be, and a lot of it's so experiential too. Like the very first time I remember. When Dolby Atmos was introduced to the tech community, it was like 2 years before the public knew about it. This was like 2010 or something like that. Dolby Atmos was previewed at CES, and they had set up this huge theater, and so for anybody who doesn't know the difference between Atmos and 7.1 or whatever, Atmos adds vertical to the mix of surround, and it was incredible. I mean, they had set up this like whole big experience, and I don't know. I think stuff like that's probably not going to go away, but
yeah,
probably some will.
Well, NAMM's a weird one, right? I know some of them went to NAMM. I don't think you can't just be a person. You need a press pass to get into NAMM, I think, don't you? Or can you? Yeah, because I know somebody that got a press pass because they wrote one blog article, and I thought that was BS. But oh well.
To be fair, that's how I got into
Pretty
NASA by making a fake space news blog, and then got to go to the state of NASA address, and by doing that.
Isn't that how all the reporters got into the last Borat film? Is they would just make a blog, put some entries in to probe these politicians, and it worked. Press passes, and they got to see Giuliani's junk.
Yeah. Well, all's fair in love and war. I guess I just regret I didn't think of the idea first.
I think that part of the thing that might be, and Ian says that hot take trade shows are dead. Yes and no. I think that one of the things that I notice is that there's suddenly a bit of freedom in these companies as far as they're building and designing new stuff. They don't have the deadline of NAMM right now or Music Mess right now, those kinds of things. And I think that might help spur things on as far as putting out stuff that's done.
Yep.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I mean, some things, it also depends on how long people wait during the R&D process to announce stuff and what their strategy is there.
I think Jeff made a good point. It's like I was going to mention like how like affect the gaming world, and I think a lot of that is the more you can diversify the show that you're doing, like the more outreach you're going to have, and the more that's going to be more likely to last. So it's not targeted just towards like here's the particular industry heads. Like it's like you have like the diehard people, you have like the casual gamers, you have like arranged that it appeals to everyone. And I think if trade shows are able to like have something for everyone and not worry as much about deadlines, because PAX East like will have like indie developers who are like been working on their R&D for 2 years. They still don't have a product, but they're still ramping up interest. And if the interest is there, people will keep coming back to it. So I think if people are still innovative in how they go about showing their stuff, the people will go. But of course, you still need like the money to get the show going.
But there's still I think to that point, especially with things like PAX, there's like a thing where they have to have it ready, like a workable demo or at least a walkthrough of something, by the time this starts up. And even though it might be nowhere near ready to be shown to anybody, and if someone like sneezes on it, it's gonna fucking fall apart. It reminds me of back when they were doing Macworld back in the day as a Mac dude, and people were trying to put stuff out by Macworld, and Apple was trying to put product out by Macworld, and after they stopped doing it, people were like, "Oh, thank God, we don't have this kind of deadline over our heads." To have something, like whether a demo or a product done by this date. Now we can actually just take our time and do it. So,
I mean, it's a different model where like the traditional trade show, like Jeff was saying, was targeted at retailers, right? Right. I mean, these things are cons where it's a little bit more democratic,
Right.
and I think that, to me, I think that's cooler.
Yeah,
And
agreed.
maybe,
Yeah, I think the more community-based kind of thing, like NobCon, is very, there's a trade show element to that, but it's not. The point of NobCon isn't the trade show in a way. You know what I'm saying? It became more, more about meeting up with your friends and hanging out and stuff like that, and less about, and I mean, there's still like the element of looking at the new stuff and poking at the new pieces and stuff, but also, getting to know folks and just meeting people. Like Moogfest was a lot like that in a way as well.
It's a balanced experience.
Exactly.
Yep. And in the end, the reason trade shows exist is so that the trade show can make money.
Yeah.
So, like, really, whatever sort of like puts butts in seats. And a lot of the money from trade shows comes from exhibitor fees.
Right.
Putting up booths at trade shows is not inexpensive. Like, I've overseen booth builds that were multiple millions of dollars, and that's what these trade show companies are sort of raking in. And so whatever sort of like meets the maximum intersection of like, will people pay to come to this, and will exhibitors pay to put stuff up there?
It's smart because they kind of hit the FOMO effect, right? So like no company is going to be like, oh, if Yama's going to be there, like Roland's like, there's no fucking way, we got to be there too, right? And it becomes kind of viral in that.
Yeah, and if any synthesizer company's there, Behringer's got to show up to try to steal their plans.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, how's Behringer come up with ideas?
They don't do trade shows, do they?
well, no,
At least not in the United States.
they were at
Yeah.
one of the NobCons, and then they got kind of kicked out of NobCon after that.
They
Right.
show up with like a dude in a fake mustache. He's like walking around like, I'm not with Behringer. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I work for Arturia. I'm a perfectly normal French person. Don't know.
Arturia. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also like a lot of the new product announcement and stuff like that nowadays just goes into YouTube at this point too, and I think that's a big thing as well. And folks are sending things that way because they can send out a couple demo units to some YouTuber guy and let them play with it and not have to fly it around and have a bunch of experts on hand to show people how to use it and stuff. And the pandemic has kind of proven that is a viable sales system.
They just have to live the psychic guilt of Loopop making a 4-hour video on their podcast.
And Mark Doty coming by,
Yeah.
seeing it.
Mark Doty showing you how not to make it sound good. Was that my out loud voice?
No, that's. Oh, I won't say who that is. We all know who the worst demoer on the internet is, Andrew. I won't say their name because they're probably a nice person, but it's terrible.
Probably. Anyway, rest in peace, Music Mess. That's all I gotta say about that. All right, now the big news. For the past, I feel like it's been for the past the minute since our last show. Behringer has decided that they wanted to put everything out. Period. And they decided they were going to make them all in these hideous little box things that look, some of them look like they sat in your chain smoking grandmother's house too long. Because they're kind of yellowish.
They look like.
Not all of them are.
No. I'm not saying all of them.
Small sense.
I apologize. Some of them do. Some of them are small, and some of them look alike. Some of them are exciting. Some of them are okay. One of them is a total ripoff of something that's still being manufactured in true Behringer style.
Wait, only one? Wait.
Only one, yeah.
Only one.
Yeah, the
Well, I mean, they're ripping off themselves with the Model D Soul. So
yeah, okay, yeah. So they clone themselves with with that, but the Behringer Model 15 is the grandmother.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
I mean, look at the coloring and everything.
Yeah.
It gets so obvious.
So
Yeah.
So they put out.
Yeah.
I'm trying to count. I'm not saying they put out. I'm sorry, they didn't put out. Boy, story of my life. They announced.
They announced
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 things in the past 2 weeks.
Do you ever like do like a bet where like you like try to guess a percentage of like how many of those will actually come to light after all that?
I believe
Yeah, I
at
was
least
about to
10
say.
of them will. So one of them is an announced prototype, but they don't have a working prototype. They've done like a SketchUp, and that's their power mixer.
Mm.
But the rest, the prototypes are already in place.
Sounds a lot like point spread betting to me. I don't know. Honestly,
Well, they had announced that they had a rapid prototyping system and that they'd be able to crank these synths out with very little effort. And this looks to be the case here, that they can, kind of use this like structure that they've already put together,
yeah.
and they can just make monosynth after monosynth.
But what's mystifying to me is like with the UB1. Now everyone's in XA for and I know they did announce the prototype of the desktop.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if it's just a parts issue, I guess they're saying, well, if we can't get 8 oscillators, we'll just get one, and sell it as a thing. I guess someone made a financial decision, right?
Well, no, because they're not selling this thing either
Yeah.
because they can't get the chips.
Okay.
And for the
Yeah.
and these are different chips because the Matrix 6 and Matrix 1000 use different chips than the UBXA.
Yeah, they
So,
use Turtle
but,
chips.
but
They were
those
all-
chips they manufacture. I think what they probably can't get is the chips for the USB and like the firmware chips, the operating system chips. I think that's what they can't get.
Oh,
The oscillators and the filters, they make those themselves. They can get that.
sorry.
So I think it's the other chips that you need to get it together.
I was actually talking about the 2-voice, not the Matrix clone. But assuming that that's going to be I actually don't know if that was the same oscillator on the OB series.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the 2-voice is different than the UBXA.
Right. Okay. Still, it seems very random to me why they would do it that way. But I guess,
This one's not out either, but they've also announced that they're just waiting for the chips for both of them,
sure.
but they're very different synths.
Sure. Oh, yeah. I'm just wondering,
So, and
where they're coming from with that, right? I don't know.
Well, what do you mean for where they're coming from?
Well, I mean, they could be releasing something sort of larger in scope. It's a financial decision, right? I mean, and it comes down to if you can source so many parts, and say you're trying to develop VCOs, do you try to release that, or is your profit margin better if you use less parts, something smaller that you might sell more of? Do you know what I mean? I mean, this is a financial decision, not a technical one. That's what
I mean, and I might be wrong, but what the opinion I got from, or the impression I got from the release was that all of these synths are ready to go when the chips come in, including the flagship synths like the UBXA, which everybody's been waiting for.
Oh,
So
cool.
when the chips come in, they'll be able to ship everything. And that they're
Nice.
just held up just the same way that car manufacturers are held up. I mean, there's a real shortage. And they mentioned that people keep asking, why don't you just make your own chips? Because the chips that they can't get, the facility to make those is about 2 billion. And as big as they are, they just don't have the 2 billion.
No,
Yeah.
And the lead time for making chips.
Not even
Also,
close.
it's 2 billion. If you make that investment for 2 billion, it's going to be years before it's ready. And then if it doesn't pay off, you're just screwed. So it's a
Right.
very challenging industry. And there's a lot of complications causing these hiccups. But when the chips do come out, well, I think everything that they've announced, plus the ones, like they said, the UBXA has been waiting and waiting, but they said it's finalized. They just can't manufacture it right now. So that makes sense. I don't think any of this cannibalizes the other thing, except for if you're deciding which one you want. And my guess is, Justin, you're probably more interested in the UBXA, whereas I'm more interested in the 2XM.
Yeah.
And that's because I have a real love of the Oberheim 4 voice, which I've ranted
Yes.
about in the past. Yeah. So I won't repeat that, but that's the one that excites me, and I'm really giddy about this thing if it sounds authentic at
that's
all.
the next bit, right?
Yeah.
And I agree, and I think that any of these things, I think the 2XM would be something that I would at least take a second glance at before realizing it's probably made like garbage and would fall apart after I sneeze on it. But I'll at least like think about it.
Yeah, for me, I'm not going to rush out and buy it. If Starsky Car gives it a good review, then I'm probably getting 2 of them.
Make sure that we should request that
Because-
Starsky's car at least picks it up and shakes it 3 or 4 times before he plays it, just to see what happens and just
That's
to
a good
hear if
idea.
there's anything loose inside of it.
No.
And set it down not gently and see if it still
Yeah.
works.
Actually,
Yeah.
I think they need to get
Did Baron-
Callus to start reviewing their gear,
OMG, yes.
because if he doesn't like it, he'll just throw it out the window and scare the shit out of his cat.
Nice.
Solid.
They should send reviews to Will
Right?
It Blend.
Could send everything to that.
Behringer says it was like we'll blend with a fork. Did they say something about $2 billion for that facility, Chris?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
Multiple times.
So interesting. So Behringer, I was interested because people keep talking about how big Behringer is. I hear this a lot, and I'm like, I kept looking at them like, I don't think they're that big, actually.
No, they're not. That's why
And-
they don't have that facility.
Yeah. So they, depending on who you believe in terms of the research analysts, I think Behringer does like maybe 100 million annually in sales, which means their company is probably like at 100. Let's just be like really generous and say that they can hit something like 15 points of profit margin on something. If we're super generous with the valuation in the public's eyes of them, they're probably worth something like 150 million in a sale for an IPO. So it's very funny that they keep throwing away around. It's, I don't know, like they just do all this
And, well,
misdirection
are they
stuff all
talking
the
about
time.
just
But,
Behringer? Or are they
like,
talking about the music group? Is Ian's asking?
Or
Music
what-
Music Tribe is pretty easy to track down, and so they look to be doing about
Okay.
300 million a year, and they're way more leveraged than
Mm-hmm.
Behringer is alone. So they're actually, I wouldn't be surprised if they're not even worth 300 million in an IPO deal.
So what do you think
Um,
this direction is?
Yeah, but yeah, it's just funny that they keep talking about like this 2 billion, like, oh, we're not going to go spend the 2 billion. It's like, bro, you could not have $2 billion.
No, that's what they're saying. They said we don't
Okay.
have $2 billion.
Oh, I thought that they were talking about like, oh, we aren't going to spend it. I was
No,
misunderstanding.
no. They said we don't have $2 billion, but if you want to lend it
Yeah.
to us, it's,
Oh,
they're just joking around. But they just say, because people don't realize how much it costs to make these chips.
yeah.
So they said, well, we don't have the $2 billion. So they're not like saying, oh, we're not going to invest our $2 billion on that. No, they're openly saying we don't have $2 billion.
They should
So-
get Elon
so-
Musk to give him $2 billion. Yes.
So
Simplab,
Jeff's
here's the
cat. What are
Well,
your
unfortunately,
thoughts on
Elon
this?
Musk
Jeff's
has been
cat.
also-
I was gonna say it was close to the microphone there.
Jeff's cat. Behringer.
I believe Elon Musk's investment money is all going into creating a robot Grimes.
So we could like throw her out of a spaceship.
Oh my gosh.
I'm guessing the cat is interested in the mini.
I think so.
Yeah.
He really likes the Octave cat.
Nice.
Of course he does. I have a cat keyboard. Where did the cat go? Mine. I know where Jeff's is. Oh, so yeah. Thanks, Behringer, for helping Tangent celebrate our 1-year anniversary by releasing all kinds of crap, or announcing all kinds of crap, I should say. They haven't released any of it because they ain't got the chips. So
Yeah.
they've got the fever for the flavor of a Pringles. We'll see what comes out of that in the next year or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of those, it's possible the Proton will come out.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking.
That one looks very
Is that
believable,
one-
and I would say,
It might not have as many chips that they don't already have.
yeah.
So I did
Yeah.
a little bit of research on it, and I actually asked them about it. So they are still using the CM3340 chips, or their clone of those chips for the oscillators, but they're configured differently, so they sound differently. And this one has an additional filter, and so it has multiple filter types because I believe it's a multiband filter, or there's 2 filters on it, which is, I believe, different than the Neutron. So they added features and they removed features from the Neutron. So it's not really a upgrade of the Neutron. It's more like it's similar to the Neutron, and you might want to have both. For example, this one lacks a rate limiter and a sample and hold, but it introduces other things.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
But
I mean,
this is
I
my
had the-
favorite
Yeah.
oscillator chip. So
Yeah.
that's exciting for me.
I had the Neutron for a while, for about a year, and I have to say, like, I also have a Prophet 600, and that used the original of those Curtis oscillators. I did sort of, as best as I could testing, and they were super good, super close. The filter, not as much, but the oscillators on the Neutron.
Yeah, it's a different filter. It's a MOSFET filter.
Yeah, super powerful. I'm sorry. Let me restate that. I didn't do a comparison of the Prophet 600 filter. I just meant my opinion about the filter.
Yeah.
But the oscillators themselves were really nice, really powerful, really good. I had other issues, stability issues, and some other things with the Neutron that made me get rid of it. But yeah, sounds great. If they can just keep it working.
We'll see. Stay tuned. And again, if any of the synth reviewers on YouTube is watching this, and they send you one to review, shake it a couple times first and make sure it still works. I'd be curious to find out. Or if like screws start falling out of the top of it or something.
Yeah, can you apply a torsion to it?
Oh, can we
without it
do a will it
breaking?
torque? It's like will it blend, but not quite. We just try to twist a synth and see if it breaks in our hands, like we're super people.
The
Very
Hapax
good.
will not torque.
Oh, there you go.
We've done our first one.
You've done your job. Our first review is
Won't do it.
complete.
Yeah, there's the shake test. Like, there's a popular movement now of these sort of handheld devices coming from China that use, that are like vintage game collections and stuff. Amberneck is one of these companies. But yeah, there's sort of a shake test that people do on them to see what rattles in it. Sometimes it's a loose resistor, sometimes it's just, part of the assembly.
I could do. When I was a kid, my dad sold test equipment for big shakers that shook like space shuttles, and like they would, so they need to run some of those tests maybe.
Nice.
All right. So, Womber asks, does anyone know MIDI Cat? Jeff has a MIDI Cat.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, didn't they make MIDI interfaces back in the 90s?
I think so.
Yeah, I think they made a drum brain.
Sounds familiar. Remember.
Okay, well, our friends at Cherry Audio decided that because Tangents has turned 1 this week, that they were going to release something new. Because that's what they do. That's so nice of them. Thank you for Cherry Audio. They released the Rack Mode, which is a plug-in collection with 7 modeled vintage Moog signal processors. Woo-hoo. So it's not so much synthesizer as much as it is those tasty signal processors. They have a vocoder, they have a phaser, a ring modulator, string filter, frequency shifter, graphic EQ, and parametric EQ plugin. That's a lot of signal processing power for $100. Which is pretty nice.
Yeah, it looks super cool.
And Cherry Audio does great stuff. Everyone should buy Cherry Audio.
Yeah, do these fall into the voltage modular these are, or are they standalone?
I think they fall into. I think they're actually. I'm looking right now. It doesn't say.
It doesn't mention voltage modular.
know.
But because I have.
I think they're not
Okay.
voltage modular.
They look like they're
'Cause I
standalone.
have-
Because when you click on the, if you go onto their website and just click their products drop down, it's just there.
I see.
Whereas all the voltage modular stuff is sort of nested under voltage modular.
Interesting.
It doesn't seem like it needs anything else.
Yeah, I know sometimes their plugins will work in Voltage even though they're standalone or they're VSTs, because that would
Yeah.
make sense to me, because they're the ones that released a really badass System 55 clone in Voltage Modular. I would have thought this would have.
So yeah, thanks, Cherry Audio. Next time, send us a copy so we can review it. We won't shake it or throw it out the window, though.
If you can figure out how to throw download software out the window,
I can easily put it onto a USB thumb drive and throw it out the window.
There you go.
Yeah, and tape it to a grenade.
Yes.
That's cheating.
Grenades.
Yeah, I'm looking at the system requirements here. It doesn't say anything about their modular system. And you can download a free 7-day
Even
demo.
better.
Nice.
InfoTray, thank you for the well wishes.
Thank you, InfoTray.
SynthLab asks, does that mean that X Studios Cleveland has a grenade laying around? Yeah.
You
But
don't?
what studio? What home studio doesn't have a grenade laying around? I guess if you don't, okay, so if you don't have a grenade laying around, then you aren't a co-host on Tangents, right?
Wait. Sure. You're on a double negative there. I'm a little confused.
Isn't
If
this
you're
a
not
grenade slinger?
Mark.
Trade swords in for grenades. Got it.
Well, you can throw
Someone
the
told me
grenade and
this
then just
before.
whack it with the sword like a baseball, and off it goes.
Yeah, never bring a sword to a grenade fight.
True.
Again, no one told me. Damn it.
Who's having grenade fight?
No, you just need like some
Gemstones.
kind of Klingon bat'leth with a grenade launcher on each end of it.
Hoopla!
Kapla, 1, 2, 5.
Three, sir. That rabbit's dynamite. All right.
That was a good reference.
Yeah. So Cherry Audio,
Bones.
the vintage Moog signal processor, $99. Go pick it up. It'll make your teeth whiter. All right. Well, next up on our list of amazing news, Modal Synthesizers decided that because of Tangents' 1-year anniversary, that they're going to update the firmware on the Argon 8. So all you Argon 8 owners can celebrate our 1-year anniversary by installing firmware 2.6 on your Argon 8. That's cool. They gave you 12 new wavetable banks containing 60 all new waveforms. You can use 2 independent wave groups, each containing 180 carefully crafted wavetables, split into 36 banks of 5 morphable waveform sets.
That voice.
I got a face for radio and a voice for ASMR. So they give you a lot of wavetable fun stuff in there. But they still won't let you load your own wavetables into it. But, $600 for a wavetable synthesizer is not bad.
Yeah, it's another one of those things where I think they make a really cool product. I would say early on, there's a lot of comparison between the Hydrosynth and this stuff. And yeah, they use wavetables and whatever, but I think they're different products. And if you prefer the sound of one, cool. If you prefer sound of the other, cool. It's all good. I personally think these things are a little more crystalline. It's a little more clear. The Hydrosynth is a little grittier, but yeah, they sound quite lovely. It's good stuff. And I like Modal as a company. I think they're pretty cool.
Yeah, I like. I keep on coming back to the Argon 8 and thinking about picking it up, and then I quickly decide I have enough shit in here right now that I'm good.
Yeah.
So.
Good problem to have.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, definitely. SynthLab says Deluge is getting wavetable. They are, and how they're implementing it is kind of weird. I've been playing with the beta. I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm just saying it's kind of weird. It makes sense from a Deluge standpoint. Let's put it that way.
Oh, consistency. Your product is good, right?
It's very cryptic.
So yeah, I had to.
That was a very
I know, right?
slanted
Isn't that great?
compliment.
I mean, I like it, and it's all and the thing is that when version 4 of the software comes out, and the wavetable synthesis comes out with it, you can only put in your own wavetables. It doesn't come with any pre-made wavetables at all. So it's only your wavetables. So people that complain about, how come I can't put my own wavetables in? Well, they took the opposite thing. It's like, we aren't giving you giving you shit for wavetables. It's all on you, buddy. I know,
love
right?
that.
Luckily, there's plenty of places where you can get wavetables. So
Got options.
Yeah, making your own can be a little daunting. Getting someone else's deal, yeah.
Yeah, but it's just interesting because it kind of treats it like how you load samples into the Deluge and stuff like that to play them. It works in a very similar vein. Yes.
Oh.
Like that or not. John Haynes, MPE record and playback on the Deluge, new firmware as well. Yes, they're putting MPE recording and playback on the Deluge too. So that'll be in the new version as well. Anyway. Back to the Argon 8, new 2.6 firmware for Argon 8 owners. Go get that today. Up next on our firmware update journeys here, our good friends at Isla Instruments, because they realize that Jeff and I have spent money on their stuff. Jeff, much more money than I have. I only bought a Chord Bot and I think I got handwritten serial number 32 or something like that on my Chord Bot.
Yeah, I think mine's 34.
But because of our 1-year anniversary, they have released a monster update to the S2400. With that news and more on that story is Jeff. Jeff? Oh, there you go.
I mean, click through to that forum post because it's almost comical. It's like
Jesus
100
God.
lines of changes or something.
Wait, it says these are bug fixes.
Well, then get past the bug fixes and then get to the changes and new features. So
still outweighed.
The big thing here is that it goes from 8 to 16 voices. That's pretty cool.
That's cool.
So they doubled the voice count. I'm into that. And they did some other quality of life things, but the 16 voice thing is the big upgrade. The other thing that they did is they added in support for a USB keyboard, like not a music keyboard, like a typing keyboard. And so you can control the computer from a typing keyboard, and it has beta support for a mouse.
Why?
Yes, it's very funny.
I love it.
On the
Everything should
world's
have a keyboard and mouse.
goofiest screen, yeah, it's very funny. But they've done a few other things that are fairly interesting to it, I think. Like some of the additional TR mode sequencing that's on it, which I don't ever use, but it's cool for people who do. And there's more capability over choke tracks now, which is also cool, because that wasn't super well implemented yet. But it's like a very big update. They kind of got knocked like early on, and I think fairly, for the lack of updates on the Chord Bot and the sort of shoddy communication around the updates. And I don't know, it seemed like they sometimes took that a little bit personally, but whatever. They've gotten past it. They've gotten over it. And the S2400 keeps getting better and better.
Like a
So,
4-person shop, isn't it? They're really small.
yeah. It is very small. And Mickey, who's the lead programmer, it's like you go on the I Love forums and you're like, hey, I think they should do this. and Mickey chimes in and asks a couple questions. She's like, "Okay, we'll do it," or "Nope, we won't do it." And that's the kind of the responses and the action you get from them, which I
Sometimes
just
it's
think
their
is very
toddler
funny.
answering the questions and shit. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd
it
say, well,
seems like it.
Signs point to yes. So, so Jeff, I have to ask. I know this is tangential, but it's sort of related. And I've never asked you this personally. I've actually never worked with a real SP 1200, but I know what they sound like, and I really love the crunch. Does this thing bring?
Yep.
Does this thing bring the crunch? I mean, does it sound good?
Yes. Yeah, I think in a blind test, it would be impossible for anybody to tell.
Nice. But I mean,
I would vote like actually impossible.
But they're billing this thing as like that and some, right? I mean, it does all this other stuff, and it can be high fidelity and all this other stuff, right? I mean,
Yep. Yeah, it does the so it uses the MuLaw compression. It uses basically the same chip as the current edition of the SP 1200 that Rosem put out. For the signal processing, it has much better filters than the SP 1200 has, and you can use them kind of like the SP 1200. So the SP 1200 has these. It doesn't have quite the fidelity on the filters that the S2400 does, and the positioning of the S2400 filters as rotary encoders versus the sliders on the S2400 or the SP1200 on the current one has sliders on the back of it, and then there were, I guess, like some of the editions were fixed filters. I'm not familiar with all of the hardware iterations that have happened of the SP1200, but no, in terms of sound, it's dead on the money. You can actually make it much grittier too if you really want to.
nice.
So you can set it essentially has a bit crush that can go beyond the 12-bit if you want. So it has the hardware level 12-bit that's sort of like chip based, and then you can use digital bit crushing to change it out beyond that. And it also has a digital gain stage into it, so you can overdrive any of the samples as well.
Nice.
It's very, very good. I would buy it again in a heartbeat.
Yeah, it's very tempting.
Breaking news.
I have a drum machine. Yeah.
Information Tray fixed his machine drum.
Woo!
He successfully replaced the battery, which was soldered into place in his machine drum. Though now he can't get the damn faceplate back on. Never mind.
So now it looks more industrial and badass. Way to
Right?
go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now
A lot of
that it's
sense
back to
to do
working,
that. In Sonic.
he can sell it
Sell it.
Yeah, and get
and
it.
buy an S2400.
There you go.
That's the Apocalypse Edition.
Yeah.
Well, I used to have that machine, and it did have like an emulator, sort of like SP1200 emulator in it. And as Andrew will attest, like it could get pretty crunchy, but I feel like it was digital. I felt it, for sure, but I liked it.
If you want to get that same SP1200 compression artifact, and you don't want to get the SP2400 because you're already mortgaged out, you can do it for $60 with the TAL sampler, which has fully emulated the MuLaw compression.
Nice segue. Should we go
I know,
there?
right? Actually, I was just watching a video the other day that Reason Studios put out on how to make the SP1200 sound emulated in Reason, and this guy was actually doing a pretty good job of making it happen. He was doing some weird shit by using like white noise samples and stuff to like shape the EQs and everything like that. And there's a delay effect in Reason that just has a limiter in there, and you can use that, and it's almost a perfect emulation of the of that compression sound that the SP12 and 1200 comes out with. So I just thought that was an entertaining thing. But
That is entertaining.
Yeah, it was cool. And he did like he had like a side by side comparison of the two, and he did a bang up job of it. And he was kind of comparing it to like some of the plugins that are out there, and he's like the plugins kind of do the opposite of the SP1200 sound and everything like that. All right. Well, you went into the
Well, actually, that's a different sampler, so we don't have to go to it now.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. I'll shut the fuck up. So you were talking about the ability for the S2400 to accept computer keyboard and mouse input. That brings me to the next story about the ultimate way to play any piece of MIDI gear, and that is the motherfucking turbocharged DM48X MIDI harmonica.
Yep.
If you like Aphex Twin and Blues Traveler, this is your device.
Was this underwritten by John Popper?
Because, like, like you're playing your prison harmonica, but you don't want to wake up your cellmates because they get all, touchy. Now you've got a way to go where you can play in headphones.
Hold on. Everybody hold on. I've just learned the most important thing about this.
Yes.
This somehow escaped my watchful gaze. This thing's made in Sweden. This is a Swedish MIDI harmonica. The land known for their harmonica playing, Sweden, has made a 1,000 euro MIDI harmonica. This is amazing.
It really is.
I don't even.
Is this really happening, or am I dreaming right now? I don't know.
This is what the future is. This is the future. This is the future.
This shit's gonna get made in the Behringer sense are never gonna get their chips. We're gonna have a harmonica in every home.
Oh my God, we're in hell.
This is the best. This is future hell. Open set ask could it be mounted to the Soma pipe, or both could be played at once. Well, I guess I have to spend 1,000 euros on getting one to find out, don't I? Unless, of course, our good friends over at Leckholm Instruments, who decided to put out the DM48X wireless MIDI harmonica because of the Tangent's 1-year anniversary, would like to send me one for testing with the Soma pipe.
The video of the man playing it, I watched before, and I have it up again. And I encourage all of you to watch it. He's just so into making out with this
Every
harmonica.
person I've ever seen who plays a harmonica is really into making out with their harmonicas. Like, when have you not seen a person do harmonica face at least once when they're playing harmonica?
Is that what they call a Swedish
This is
kiss?
totally a
He's
Swedish
trying
kiss.
to impress future dates.
Yeah.
Well, I hate it so much that I love it.
I think that we really need one. This is such a bad idea that Justin just left.
He's just like,
You did
well,
the right
I'm
thing,
out.
Justin.
He literally just said,
Imagine,
"Oh,
somebody-
fuck this. Let me know when the story is over. I'll be right back."
Yeah, I'm out. Because think about it. Like, somebody says, "Oh, I just got this MIDI harmonica. You want to try it?" And you know what this person did to it. It's like, you're not touching
Yeah,
that.
right.
It's like dripping as
No,
they hand it
it's
to
a
you.
COVID magnet. I'm not getting that.
Yep. Ian, thanks for joining us tonight. Have a good night. Feel better.
Right.
It's good. Thanks for stopping by, Ian.
Yeah, because
Good luck
every
with your
harmonica is
harmonica.
just like covered in slobber and human liquids and various.
That is
awful-
the most polite way we're going to say that.
Let's move along.
All right, fine.
Yep, pretty much.
We've
We
got a
talked
lot of
about-
news.
I mean, I do have an electric kazoo here, so
Yeah, but that's awesome.
it is. And it sounds so horrible. I can't wait to use it in the stream one day. Like I will have all the instruments that I have to put my mouth on. And I recently got those like when you go to the butt doctor and you get the little camera up your butt.
No.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Well, when you get Christoph, you should know this. You're old enough that you should have this done.
Hey, I am clearly only 29.
Times like almost 3.
And I did not have this done last summer. Nope.
Nope. So I got one of those little tiny cameras. And I'm going to mount it to my Soma pipe. So when I play it, it's just going to be the view inside my mouth the entire time. Yeah.
That's really gross.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's the thought is.
I look forward to this.
I guess if we ever do an April Fool's,
That might
Fest,
be
that would
really
be
good. It
appropriate
might
for
just
it.
be. I might
Yeah.
create a character just about with an oral fixation, and I'll just put things in my mouth for 2 hours.
How is this different than
Yeah.
your normal streams?
April Fool's Synthfest is
Oh.
just acoustic instruments.
Yeah.
It's just all acoustic instruments. It's just nothing but Wonderwall.
Oh my god. You could call your set Sometimes a Cigar is Just a Cigar. I think that would be good.
That's right.
Yeah, MIDI harmonica. Such a good idea that Justin actually got up and left for that news story.
So needed eine Tasse Wasser.
Ah,
The electric harmonica reminded me of something that Jeff and I saw at some music festival years ago. It was a software emulation of the steel drum, filling the need that we had for a steel drum VST. They had mastered it, and they were so proud of it.
I do remember that. I had forgotten about it. They really were very happy with their steel drum software. Yeah.
I love it. All right, man, we were beating the shit out of that one. So, next story. Zoom has announced a new field recorder. They have released what is the F8N Pro. This they put this out because of our 1-year anniversary, of course. So this is the Tangents edition. It doesn't actually say anything on there that it's a Tangents edition, but we know the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they said they were sending us all one, and I didn't get mine.
I
Did
know,
you guys
right?
get yours?
No. It might be late in the packaging. It may not have gotten the chips in time.
Damn porch pirates.
Arr. Porch pirates make me mad.
We have very sophisticated ones here in Chicago that know how to get through 2 security doors. So
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I can tell you how. Just hit all the buttons until someone lets you in.
God,
Yeah.
don't even get me started on that.
Wombra asks, can we win
it hurt?
a date with the skinny puppy guy in upcoming episodes?
The skinny puppy guy.
Wow.
This is a pretty cool field recorder.
I'm still stuck on winning a dream date with Das Christoph.
I just
That's what you
can't
need the field
how
recorder
horrible
for.
That would be. This is not good. So.
The dream date or the Zoom recorder?
Oh, me. The Zoom recorder's great. Me, I'm terrible. So I should stay away from people.
Wombra says, I just want to talk skinny puppy all night with him and not get broken up with.
What you should do, Wombra, is you should go to Spike Club every Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because I play lots of Skinny Puppy.
He really does.
Nice.
And I will talk about it as long as people will talk to me about it.
He will.
So, and if you're interested, for real, there's a YouTube video that you can find where I talked about Skinny Puppy with 2 other guys for about 4.5 hours. For real, we did a deep dive doing their whole discography.
If you can find the link and put it up in the chat, I think Wombra will appreciate that.
That'd be cool.
While he sits in the reactor to think about what he's done.
Is it a submarine reactor?
No, it's just a reactor I have in the garage that's kind of falling apart. Yeah. All right, so yeah, the F8N Pro is a really pretty hardcore field recorder, 8-channel, 32-bit, dual AD converters. It is quite an attractive, quite a sensuous looking device. Going for about $1,300. And yeah, I have almost zero experience with field recorders, but I almost want this just because it looks so fucking cool.
So there's basically two big buckets of field recorders. There's the sort of prosumer stuff like the Zoom and Tascam that people like this one, and then there's other stuff that's like very high, like the sound devices, like the Scorpio is one, or the 833, and that's a lot of times what you'll see used on sort of like professional on location shoots, especially for sound for picture.
Mm-hmm.
They have super low noise floors and really good noise reduction algorithms that will basically, like, you can take basically whatever, like an SM58, put it out on a gale force wind, and it can remove that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're quite expensive. Like the Scorpio is like $10,000 or $15,000. This, interestingly, I mean, let's see where it gets to in practice, but this one is getting in the neighborhood of the Sound Devices 833.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have quite the specs, but it's approaching it. And the 833 is like $5,000. This could be kind of, the F8N was always kind of like this weird no man's land thing. Like we use one on the team that I run.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have a couple of them floating around because for us, when we're filming, we are rarely filming in troublesome locations. And so the F8N is actually like really just fine for anything like that. But this is pretty cool. I mean, some of the power of it, like the 32-bit float is great. Being able to do the 192 kilohertz, super valuable in challenging locations. Looks good.
Yeah, it does. Sounds cool. Anybody else have experience with field recorders? Or Robin, what did you...
I haven't used one since the Nagra.
Nope. Robin, what did you record your album with?
That was literally with my the combination of the Mackie Pro FX mixer that I have going through OBS. That's it. Yep.
Because that came out sounding really good.
Well, you can thank Jeff for that. Jeff has magical talent.
I didn't make any of it.
Yeah. You might have gave it a little polish, but it sounded really good because I'm just listening to the YouTube videos you're posting as you were doing them. It was really good. So I was kind of curious about.
Yeah, the Nagra was really good.
And this thing is good, because you can put it in your rack and then talk to your dad at the end of contact.
Yeah, right.
Next to your even type. It's a beautiful interface.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and it's got the dual SD cards. That's cool. It is an audio interface, which is, I don't think the F8N is.
Yeah.
All right, no, maybe it is.
That's a nice addition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a cool device. I can see this being really pretty valuable. And like these things have like the slate generators in them, which is handy for like slating your scenes with a clapper. Clap on. Weirdly, it's only available in Japan.
Yeah, that is interesting. But I'm sure it'll probably be coming around here soon enough.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it does, because this would be really good for a lot of like small creative studios.
Definitely. So yeah, the Zoom F8N Pro. Hopefully, it comes to the States here eventually. That actually has a couple. I'm thinking of a couple uses already I can do with that thing.
When you get it from Zoom.
Yes. When they send it to us for our 1-year anniversary gift.
Yeah.
I would take it.
That's tradition.
I'm still using my. What is this?
Your
thing?
1-year anniversary is an F8N. I read that.
I will take it. I'm still H4N. This is the original H4N from like 2008 or something.
Oh, I thought that
Still
was the
goes
prop
strong.
from Ghostbusters.
It very well may be. I mean, it predates Ghostbusters, I think, the original one. Zoom stuff is good. I like it. I think they do really, really nice things for the price that they charge.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Next on our list is. Dun, dun, dun. There's a dude named Tim Shoebridge, and he came up with a software utility that enables regular MIDI keyboards to generate polyphonic aftertouch. What?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So, Justin, you came across
Yeah.
this one. Why don't you talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it is exactly as you described. It's actually a pretty interesting piece of software. I haven't actually tried it yet. Again, I think it plugs into the Voltage modular universe, so I'm not exactly sure about the logistics, like how that would work with the MIDI controller that's not hooked up through something like that. But it looks like you can specify, what your controller is and what your device is. So, but I haven't used it yet. But I've watched the videos in some detail, and it does that, but it does a lot of other cool stuff in terms of, I think it has an envelope on there that controls how the actual aftertouch works. There's like a hotkey system where you can like toggle it on. Pretty cool. I have a aftertouch keyboard that I use, but it's not poly aftertouch. And so to me, it'll do both. If your keyboard has no aftertouch, you can use it. And if it has mono aftertouch like mine, you can still use it. So it will figure that out. Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing with the Hydrasynth. I know you have the module. I have the keyboard, but it's in a rack where I can't play it all the time. And my controller can't handle the polyphonic aftertouch. So some of those sounds that sound so sweet, I can't do it unless I go over to it and physically play it. And now hopefully that will make that possible. So I don't know. He developed all this, or he worked with somebody. I know he taught himself C++ to do something else. Because he makes a bunch of those Midi-log, Prolog waveforms. So he figured out how to do that himself. So interesting guy. I really like him. He's kind of like, for me, he's like ASMR, like synth porn. Like he kind of like chills me out, But yeah, good stuff.
I like Tim Shoebridge's channel. He does definitely subscribe to the never use one word when 100 will do mantra.
Yeah,
He's very good.
He has such a suburban sort of London accent, and he's got kind of this gruff voice. And anyway, yeah, it's good stuff. And I think that I look forward to him developing this, because he's already like on version 3. I think he's gotten like a ton of immediate feedback because he keeps being like, oh, but this, but that. And so I just think this is a very, very cool idea.
Yeah, it is. It's neat. He it's fairly novel the way that he got to it too with the software. It seems like it's clever.
Yeah. It's such a good idea, and it's really neat that he came up with like you said, just how he's doing this whole thing is really just kind of. I'm still kind of like, what?
I think it's probably based on some kind of need, and we'll discuss later. Iridium he's an Iridium person, and I know he also had the Quantum. I don't know if he still has it, but I think that's another thing is that the Iridium can do polyphonic stuff. And again, if you don't have a keyboard for that, then you miss out on it.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously they've solved that problem by creating a better Iridium.
Right.
Like a one knot. Well, we'll get there. I don't want to. We'll get to that. Maybe we'll get to that topic. It's like 20 after. So.
There are
There
many
is.
topics. It was
It
a
has
busy
been.
couple weeks.
Like I was getting nervous. So yeah, polyphonic pressure generators. Robin, what are you thinking about this, especially with the more recent bit of stuff with your Hydra?
I mean, I definitely like the idea of it, considering, I mean, I always find it frustrating, like, if I'm playing with stuff like off the cuff and I'm just using the Hydra Synth itself and using the Poly Aftertouch, but it's sometimes frustrating if I'm trying to sequence it from the Deluge and I don't get like that, like the same output as if I'm dealing with it directly. So I like the concept of how this could apply.
Yeah, definitely.
It'd be cool if you made it like a box, because if you're doing like a DAWless jam, I guess you're kind of. But in theory, like, why not? You know, put in a little Raspberry Pi and
exactly.
sell it for like, $50.
That would be cool.
You could just get yourself a Squarp Hapax.
This is true.
Yeah, I mean, you can't sell a Raspberry Pi for $50 and make a profit.
True.
Well, okay, fair enough.
So yeah, this is a big thing, especially if you, unfortunately, if you're trying to just do DAWless, then this isn't going to probably work for you. You can use it as a standalone, but if you're trying to move away from the computer, then this isn't going to be something that's going to be very good. But yeah, if you could make a breakout box of that or something along those lines, that would be slick
That would
as
be
spit.
amazing.
Yeah, I mean, Christoph is right. I mean, actual Raspberry Pi, you wouldn't, even a 3, you would make a profit.
Yeah.
But it is kind of interesting that there was a time when people were making these devices that did like, and I know that there's Pro Audio stuff that does this, that uses hardware to accelerate stuff, but that you could put, I forget what company it was, that made like a plug-in device where you could actually load your plugins into the ASIC so that it would run more efficiently. To me, I mean, that would be so cool if somebody, I mean, nowadays, this kind of stuff, like whether it's Arduino or whatever, it's so much.
I guess with Arduino, you could just, because it's just modulating MIDI, and that would get your price point down low enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, Arduino doesn't have the speed for audio, but it does have the speed for MIDI. So that would work.
Yeah. It's just interesting that people aren't doing that, especially in the DAWless world. And not just creating a unit for this, but that would run any kind of plugin. That would be actually kind of slick.
You know what? If somebody is doing it, they've done it as a Eurorack module, of which there are billions. So maybe it exists and we just don't know.
Truth.
You haven't really seen anything out there like that. But I try not to pay too much attention to the modular world because...
That's why we don't know, because it's a rabbit hole.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why we don't cover much Eurorack on this show, is because if we did, then it would be like 12 hours long.
Yep.
And
oh, you mean like Eurorack show? Oh, sorry.
yeah, right. Yeah.
I got 1,000 modules came out today and yesterday and the day before.
And we're going to talk about all of them.
Yeah.
Nice.
And each of them has 3 units of it.
Yeah.
So, and then we're going to end the show with a comparison of the fart noises we made this week.
And while we were talking, another 60 modules came out.
Yeah.
One
We should.
heavily reverb. Wow. Wow.
We should each try to make our best synthesizer fart noise, and we should compare them on the next
Do you know
show.
who used to do that? Who used to actually do that in real life was the guys from Portishead. They used to take their MS-20s during sound checks and like try to outdo each other with fart noises.
That's amazing. So, Adrian Utley is real.
That's how you start your second year off.
I agree. I think maybe we should actually. I think what instead of like doing like a contest, I think what we should do is we should have each of us have a showcase of synthesizer fart noises.
I think you guys should do that in 2 weeks.
When you're not here?
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
I think that I think that, well, the nice thing, it's a showcase, so it happened, and each person will be showcased. So when you come back, Christoph, you will have a plethora of synthesized fart noises that you have created in Caustic.
We should do it all with TB303s.
What
That's what
Wampro said. I'm gonna use a sampler.
Yeah,
That's cheating.
I mean,
It's
it's
so
pretty,
cheating,
it's
but I mean, it's
acceptable,
smart.
but you know,
Wavetables? I don't know. So.
just turn on the modular rig. All right. Well, to continue Modal's celebration of the 1-year anniversary of Tangents, not only did they update this firmware on the Argon, but they also released the Cobalt 5S, which is a shrunk down version of their popular Cobalt synthesizer. And this is nice of them. So it's a little portable virtual analog synthesizer. It's they took out some of the features from like the Cobalt 8 and everything like that, and like, but it's like they have 5 digital voices instead of 8 digital voices. So the polyphony is different, and the interface is different because they can't put as much stuff on there because it's a lot smaller.
I think they hobbled the effects on
Yeah.
it too.
So
I think.
small.
Yeah, they humbled the effects on it a little bit. But it's cute. It's portable. And it's $450, which is a good price point for this. Yeah. For a little virtual analog synth. Hey, cool.
Oh, I didn't watch any reviews on it, but it looks like there's a software editor for it. Looks like it runs on tablets, maybe phones. Because that might get away because it isn't exactly not per function here.
Right.
So they might
Yeah.
be able to overcome that using an editor like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have like a an editing software that you can run on your computer at least. I don't know if it and on the tablets as well.
That's cool.
Little touchpads need on it.
It's nice to see a mini synth like this that actually has full size MIDI outs on it.
Mm-hmm.
Truth.
Yeah.
What's with the XY pad? Is that mod in?
I
That's
think
interesting.
Yeah, I think it's basically a picture
Okay.
mod.
Yeah, I think you can
But it's
assign
neat.
different modulations to it as well.
So it's kind of like the rolling thing, that centers and
Yeah,
you go one way, it's a pitch mod. You go the other, it's not.
yeah. Zen Linux asked the Cord Minilog XD, is that only 4-voice poly? Yes, it is.
4-voice poly, mono, or unison.
So yeah, there you go. And apparently it has full MPE implementation in it, but the keyboard does not.
This is the biggest meme up there with
Of MPE?
Wavetable of the
Yeah,
early 2020s. Yes, putting MPE or Poly Aftertouch on things and then not supporting it on the device itself.
it's totally fuck you.
So stupid. And 98% of the synths released in the last 2 years have Poly Aftertouch or MPE capability, and 2 of them have the hardware
Well, I
built
mean, to be fair,
handle
a
it.
lot of MPE is difficult with a keyboard.
And what we mean is it will
So build
accept
better
MPE,
hardware.
but it can't transmit Poly Aftertouch.
Right.
That's what we're saying.
Right, or the keyboard.
Yeah.
The
And that
keyboard
makes
itself is
sense.
not. I mean,
Yeah.
and polyphonic aftertouch on a keyboard is one thing, but MPE on a keyboard is difficult unless you've got like one of those Rolly C boards or, an interface like that, which the Rolly C board just feels like you're fingering a dolphin.
It's like, for me, the ability to.
Mm.
So, for me, the ability for a machine or a module to be able to respond to Poly Aftertouch is very important.
Mm-hmm.
But for it to be able to transmit Poly Aftertouch isn't as important because I have one Poly Aftertouch keyboard.
Right.
I would love to have many, but they're much more expensive. And in modules, yeah, it doesn't need to be able to transmit it. I mean, I'd love to have something as good as the ASR-10, but I do not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do look for that because Polyphonic Aftertouch, once you've used it, it's hard to not just long for it for any kind of lead or
Sure.
pad sound.
Mhm. And I would say that MPE is
Did
like
you
that to a
hide
degree as well. And I
yourself?
think that once you start messing with what you can do with MPE, you can do a lot of fun with that. And for those that missed it, I did in fact say the Rolly C board felt like you were fingering a dolphin, and I regret nothing. Okay.
No one missed it.
Yeah,
no
we-
one missed
we-
it.
we all
tried
thought
to
that.
pretend like
Yep.
we did, but no
Yeah,
one missed
And
it.
now
Fingering
Andrew's
a
going to
dolphin.
get canceled. But it was consensual.
Well, there went the second anniversary.
Yeah.
Soma's next invention for Andrew, a synth that's in the shape of a dolphin that
Yay.
you finger.
Don't
Oh
let
my God.
someone know about it. Don't do
Oh my
it.
god, I want to
Oh.
hear a dolphin squeak right behind Andrew right now. So bad.
They'll call it the blowhole.
Wow. I would normally go and take a bunch of showers, but then I would just think about dolphins.
Be
so
afraid
I'm
that the
not-
dolphin was going to get into the shower with you. You turn
If you
around
don't
and
have a shower,
there's a
don't
dolphin.
Bring any banger gear with you.
Finger me, Justin.
Man,
I don't know, Act Attack. That's something you're gonna have to ask Google.
dolphin was talking to me. I wouldn't do any fucking thing it asked me. All right.
Act Attack. Dolphins are mammals, therefore they have the same fun bits as you and I and the rest of
Yeah.
humans that have fun bits have. So, cloacas are reserved for our bird and reptile friends and our egg-laying.
How about that
Let's
new
talk-
Scorp Hapax?
Also, if a dolphin tries to get you to buy into their new cryptocurrency, don't do it.
Don't listen to that fucking dolphin, man. It's just gonna steer you wrong every time. It's gonna twist you to the left every time. Anyway,
All right. Well, speaking of things that excite Jeff greatly, not just dolphins, but also sequencers. And we've been
They do a lot of good
monitoring the I call it the Hapex, the Hapex, whatever, the Hapex. They, our good friends over at Squarp, had put a video out to announce this, which was really just 24 hours of quite possibly one of the greatest fart noise performances ever, and some great ray tracing graphics of this thing slowly coming together over a 24-hour period, and then they released like a 3-minute actual, here it is, and then ta-da, that was it. But it became available immediately, unlike so much stuff out there. And Jeff has it in his precious little paws, right behind him there. And
Here
there
we
it
go.
is.
It's very good. I played with it for about a half an hour today. It's so it's a sequencer. I like sequencers. I've been on the waiting list for a Circlon forever, and apparently they don't exist. I think now, I don't know if I would. Well, no, I'd get one and I'd sell it to some dingus who'd pay me 3 times the price for it. That seems reasonable. This thing's pretty cool. It does all the things that all sequencers do. Like, you can play into it, you can program it. It has the button array like the Deluge does, and interestingly, the buttons, wow, is it nice. They are somewhere between the Deluge and an MPC.
wow.
Very responsive, very nice. And it's got a bunch of cool features. So good job, Scorp.
So can you talk?
Good job
Can you
to you.
tell us a little bit more about the features on this thing,
Yeah, I'm curious.
other than you
Yes.
want to jizz on it, which is a feature.
I think it would not consider that a feature. Okay, so primarily they call this thing a polychronic sequencer, which is a really weird way to describe it. It is two sequencers, and you can be sequencing two songs simultaneously on it. And so the easiest way to think about it is really like it is a DJ deck with a battle mixer built in between it, and you can kind of like mix your songs together is one of the things that you could do. But you could also use that second one to double the capabilities of it, which is kind of neat. It has so Squarp stuff in general has these absurdly high limits for like how long something can be. So how long can an individual sequence be? 1 million events. So if you've got CC changes or something like that's each change is an event. So each sequence can be 1 million events. That's a lot of events. And it's very, very playable. It has a very deep isomorphic layout for playing live on it that you can do lots of different scales and structures and things on. It can turn itself into having sort of like 8 pads to use as drum pads, and it collects the small pads into like larger chunks and color codes them. It has a generative mode on it. It has lots of MIDI features. Like it'll generate LFOs on MIDI LFOs for you of a bunch of different shapes. It does MIDI echo, and it's pretty over the top.
So this thing is cool. I mean, so I used to use the MPC 5000 as my rig, as a DAWless rig, and then I had it plugged into Cubase, and using those two together was a real pain. But because I wanted to do my drums with the MPC, and then et cetera, et cetera. But looking at this little diorama at the very bottom, it looks like you could plug in an external MIDI controller like a keyboard, use this as a DAW controller, like plug it in through USB, and then have like a mixed model where you could kind of do both. Like that's pretty slick.
You for sure could. And it basically does everything that the Squarp Pyramid does plus a whole bunch more. And I think the Squarp Pyramid probably beats pretty much every DAW for sequencing. Now you are using the hardware that you're using with it, right? So like that either does or does not appeal to you, but in terms of just sheer power, it's really pretty robust, and it's also very, very easy to use. This thing seems like it will be easy to use once you kind of learn it, but it's fairly deep. And yes, I think it would work really well.
So is this like a compare this to the pyramid? Is this like a branch? Is this like the pyramid on steroids? Like where would you put this thing? Like,
it is, well, the physical interface of it sets it apart from the pyramid a lot, right? So it has 2 relatively large OLED screens, relatively large as compared to the pyramid. They're like 2.5 inches by 1.5 inches or something like that. 2 screens on it each. So they're not like giant screens or anything, but they're relatively large compared to the pyramid. I think that 16 by 8 button layout that's used for sequencing and node input really kind of changes the game on what it is relative to the pyramid. But if I were to say, trying to hold that aside a little bit, it's much more powerful than the pyramid, and it's basically 2 pyramids smashed into one device. Yeah, I mean, in terms of even just like the input and output on it, it is also kind of literally like 2 pyramids. It has 4 MIDI outs. It has 2 MIDI ins. It has like 4 CV outs, 4 gate outs, 2 CV ins. It will do MIDI hosting. It has a MIDI out via USB hosting or USB out. It's really quite robust. So it's probably fully half again as powerful as the pyramid, and then you get 2 of them in one unit.
Wow,
that's really cool. I like the idea of you being able to do things like sequence one thing while it's playing the other stuff and then crossfading between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Mhm.
appeals to me a lot. The ability to transition easily between songs, because I know that's always an issue with me with the two.
Crossfading between the two, but also just if you're performing live and you don't want to do it from using any kind of backing track or anything. The other thing that it brings to you is you don't have to like wait to load songs in between things, which is neat. But I think it's pretty cool. I'm excited to really dig in and learn more. So far, I was able to make a kick drum and play the pads in live mode. So I am something like an expert.
And the device is $979 US.
Until they charge you $45 in
And
customs fees.
$45 in customs fees.
That's how they get you.
Where are they based out of?
It's
France.
France?
they're Paris.
France, Paris.
Yeah, I mean that's actually not a terrible price point when you consider all of what you get here.
No, it's I think it's a very reasonable price point, and the build quality on the thing is like a tank.
And Squarp is one of
Make
those
expensive damage.
small little 6-person shops, kind of like Synthstrom and Isla Instruments and those folks and stuff like that. But they're also one of those small companies that has amazing support. I had an issue with my Pyramid in that the little XY pad stopped working correctly and would just start randomly triggering. And I contacted them and they just said, we'll just send it to us and we'll fix it or replace it. And I put it in the mail and they actually cross-shipped it. So I got a new one 3 days later.
Yep.
Which I'm like, damn, that's nice of them, and they were ridiculously fast on their emails. They were really oh yeah, this is a problem. We've seen this with a couple device units and stuff like that. Don't worry, we got you covered, buddy, kind of thing. And it was like, boom, done.
Yeah.
So
they're very good.
And just kind of like with Synthstrom, when I emailed them hey, some of my feet came off. One of my feet came off of my synth, of my Hydra, or not Hydra, sorry, my Deluge. And then they shipped me more feet, without charging me anything or anything like that. They didn't even ask for warranty information or anything. They're just like, oh yeah, no problem. Here you go. Here's some stickers,
Yep. Yeah, they have really good support. And it's surprising to me how few people, it seems, actually have Squarp stuff. Their forums are really kind of quiet, but you get really good support, and the community is really strong. So I don't know how many people actually buy from them or how, how many units or whatever they do. But it's it is 5 dudes in Paris.
Yeah.
And they make really nice stuff. One of the things that is very different about Squarp versus a lot of these other smaller shops like this is the quality of the instruments that they put out is, and I mean build quality and sort of the fit and finish and finesse of the UI and UX is very high relative to a lot of companies. This is hands down better feeling than anything that Roland or Yamaha or anybody puts out. It's
Absolutely.
way better build quality.
Yeah, I know DNKTRL uses the Pyramid as one of their main sequencers on their streams. And if folks aren't familiar with DNKTRL, definitely follow them because they do amazingly good live streams every Wednesday. They have an incredibly creative system. Thank you, Actitect, for that love. Where you can do things like control their tempo via the chat and change up their lights and
That's cool.
And blast dude with smoke and especially if he's doing a stream where he's trying to show you how to do stuff and he forgets to turn off the command to turn on the smoke machine. And then he calls you a motherfucker. Anyway, really good stream, and then they use a lot of the Squarp Pyramid, and definitely like really experts on how those things work. But yeah, I mean, hats off to Squarp for putting this thing out. This thing is a game changer in the swollen world of sequencers that are already out there.
Yep. There are a lot of very shitty sequencers out there, though. I will say the Pyramid I would recommend unequivocally to anybody who wanted a sequencer. And I don't know if I'd recommend this thing or not. I probably would on the basis of I think Scorp is good stuff, but man, the Pyramid is just stellar.
Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, Scorp, if you're listening, we said we love you, and therefore you should send us all one of these. That'd be great. The Scorp Hapax. Hapax?
I believe it is the Hapax.
Hapax. Oh, they forgot the
Yeah, I don't know.
the apostrophe.
It's not a word. There is a band that I found called Hapax too.
Oh.
And they were posting on the Squarp thing saying like, we think we should get one of these free because of our brand name, which was funny.
Yeah. But
I looked them up and they're good. They're like an Italian goth rock band.
Oh, fun. All right. So yeah, this is cool. Yay. Thank you. Synthesis for following.
And yes, Act Detect, if they are French, the H may be silent. But this is a made up word.
Just like French is a made up language.
Oh.
Like Klingon, French is a made up word.
Hey, you can go to Klingon camp if you want to learn Klingon. It's like Klingon immersion.
Right?
You just can't ever tell anybody.
No.
You can go, but no one can ever know.
I was cleaning out this guy's desk who left a company I worked at, and he had a collection of like 10 cassette tapes of how to learn Klingon.
Oh.
It's a real thing.
Next to a bottle of antidepressants.
Yeah. A bottle. Like a giant, like oversized, like.
Yeah. Costco-sized bottle.
Xanax.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Okay. Anyway, next story. And this is a small story. And that's Tangible Waves is coming out with a tiny mixer.
Boo.
See what I did there? The small story.
It's SMOL. It's small.
The VMix 10 compact mixer for your Volcas and other portable synthesizers. Again, I like the idea of having these small things, especially for folks that have not much space for their synth gear setup and everything like that. I'm not saying Robin doesn't have much room, but how are you fitting everything on your desk now, Robin?
It doesn't. That's the problem. It's like I almost take the approach of like one of our guild members, Frost, where it's like, okay, I will choose certain synths and I will put them on the desk, and those are the things that I'm going to use for my stream, because until I knock a wall out of this apartment or move, there's just no way.
Have you thought of building vertically?
I have a 2-tier stand.
I think so.
I have a 2-tier stand, Robin, that I'll send you for free if you want it.
Tempted. I wouldn't rule that out. I'm just gonna get a Murphy bed so I can just take over the entire bedroom.
Maybe you
and
can
that'll
do like a
solve that
Murphy
problem.
bed, but it's all your synths.
I only sleep.
Well,
That's true. I could stack the
Mhm.
synths on top of the Murphy
Well,
bed.
back in my bachelor days, I did the very same thing with a futon because you can just roll it up like it was just a futon.
Right.
Um,
But I do think that these mixers come in handy, because it's like I still keep thinking like I want like Moog to like be able to mass produce the small mixers that they have for their sound studios. It's like for those of us who like for those people who have those already and they just want like the small mixer to be able to separate, like these could come in handy as things to be able to sell on its own.
no doubt. I think that the thing that always kind of bothers me about mixers in general is that they never give you enough stereo channels.
Stereo channels
Fair.
are terrible.
That's
Stereo
so
channels
true.
belong in the garbage.
All right, you two fight it out. Go.
2 thumbs down. Stereo channels belong in the garbage.
Why?
All mono channels all the time,
Why?
or go home.
Why?
Because they never balance left and right appropriately. Because none of them ever get the left and right balance
Okay.
right. Literally ever. Because there's plenty of times when you might want to have a different set of EQ on your channels, and splitting left from right for that can be different because you want actually to use 2 layered mono channels instead of hard panning them, and you can do different things and different effects of the left and the right of your synths. And because the stereo channels are a scam. The stereo channels are there so that the mixer manufacturers can tell you that they've given you more channels. They haven't given you more channels. Channels are defined by the channel strips,
Right.
not the numbers that they put on them.
Right.
Stereo is
Fair.
a fly.
You know what else is a scam sometimes is TRS. I'm sorry.
As
a whole
opposed to TS or XLR or what?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's just because there's a couple of synths that don't play nice with it. So if you try to go direct into you're going to have problems. But
Yeah.
it's mostly vintage gear, and I guess I'm biased here.
I would prefer
Are you
in
talking about
almost
line
every
level
case.
support over TRS?
What's that?
Are you talking about balanced TRS?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Balanced is,
So-
is sort of like one of those technically better things, but I would almost always prefer TS if I can get it, because then you're not having to recombine the phase inverted signals. You're not losing the signal strength. You're not putting it through thinner amounts of copper. There's times when it helps, but everything in here is I'm running unbalanced.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. I still have a couple. I mean, when I got this new sound card, so one thing that I didn't like that is going out with my new sound card is it doesn't give you, there's a driver installed. PreSonus has a driver, but it doesn't have any instrumentation. You can't go in and do
Right.
anything. Whereas with this, I could go in and I could change the phase, for example, at the software level, and I can't do that now. So since I'm such a direct shop, I don't have a mixer or submixer.
Well, you should be able to.
Yeah.
I
Kind of
mean,
pain.
with the PreSonus mixer, you should be able to do that actually in Studio One.
I have not found a way to do that, but all the thing you can. But there's certain hardware level things that it doesn't seem to want to do. So
Okay. And
some request for PreSonus to give me more power.
more power.
Well, for anybody who's interested, I'm about to drop a link into the chat.
Ew.
I've bought every mixer that's been made by companies that make mixers, I think. And this one, I would absolutely recommend forever and ever. Amen. It's fantastic.
Is it tiny though?
And it's rack mountable. It's not tiny, but it is rack mountable.
Which one? What is
The Allen and Heath Mix
It's
Wizard.
it's the one that I've got. It's that Allen and Heath Mix Wizard.
Oh yeah, that's one of those small Allen and Heath. There's another company, SSL, right? That's making those little mixers. Those little.
Yeah, this one's I mean, it's like a desktop console, but it is very much like a pro console sort of a
Yeah.
thing. It's 16 mono channels. But
Because Allen and Heath, man, that shit ain't cheap.
Yeah.
Neither is SSL stuff, but the preamps on those things, and it just sounds so good.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I really like. I mean, this is a SM58, and I think I actually have it hooked directly into it right now.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna get a mixer and you're serious, I guess this is.
Yeah, the connector layout on the back of this one is great. Zen Linux. That's why I got it, is because I run it. So I have the direct outs on each channel, which I have set up to be post channel strip, and it goes directly into a Motu 16A. So I have 16 in, and it's bidirectional. I can even sum inside the mixer. It's really flexible.
How you said you have a 16? 'Cause I'm looking
Yeah.
at the 32 right now. Jesus wept. That thing is badass. Oh my god.
This one and the Motu 16A are a really nice pairing.
Well, Rob and I still want stereo mixers.
Get
Fair.
out.
Doesn't matter. I mean, I don't have a strong preference.
No, you want
either
stereo
way.
mixers. Come on, be on my side. Someone's got to be on my side.
Get out of here.
Don't leave me hanging here.
Right. I mean, I like
don't
using
put-
them. I like using them for live stream. Would prefer having a stereo mixer for that. I'm not saying I want a stereo mixer for recording or anything like that. I have a little stereo, like a rack mount stereo mixer that I run my stream into, and it works great because it does what it needs to do. I'm not looking for high fidelity stereo or anything like that. I'm just looking for left and right channels that I can like turn up and down without having to fiddle with, 2 knobs or 2 sliders and shit like that.
Womber has redeemed a Resonate and a Read to Me.
Oh man, I forgot to turn those off. I guess I got to resonate.
Or I could at least satisfy the other requests he had, so at least that way he doesn't feel completely left out. There you go, Wambra.
Now resonate it. There you go.
Nice.
There's a resonate. Thank you. And then what I'll do here is I'll read some of the copy for the for this mixer that we're talking about. A nice portable mixer for small synthesizers and drum machines. A completely new product for Tangible Waves. We're actually known more for their AE modular system, but don't worry, there will be many new modules in the future. A proof here, the mixer is also available in a modular version. There you go.
Andrew, could you rub on a wine glass or
I
something?
know, right? Took me to make some weird noises. I was gonna read the instruction manual for the Quantum Ocean, because that is just like the Soma Quantum Ocean, because that is some holy shit, bonkers shit. That never mind.
Just rub your luscious fingernails along the microphone. Sorry, Robin. I don't know why you keep coming.
Why? Why?
You guys didn't hear it though, because you hear me through the Skype microphone, but everyone on the stream got to hear.
You wonder why I have like whiskey on the
I
side.
don't wonder at all. I'd say that you were smart, Robin. All right. We're almost at 11 o'clock and we still have so many more stories. So let's hit this shit, shall we? All right. Cubase 12 came out. Good job, Cubase.
You did it.
You did it. You came out with 12.
You're
I know
still
that.
around.
I think Bo Beats is the only one that uses you still. No, I don't know.
No.
Hans
What's his
Zimmer
face?
still uses it.
Yeah.
Gaz Williams still uses it.
Is that what Hans uses to mix together all of his French horns?
And Junkie XL is still using Cubase as well.
Wow.
I didn't know Junkie XL still was making music.
Yeah. He does all soundtrack
Yeah,
stuff.
he's doing movie soundtracks.
He did like the Deadpool soundtracks and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh.
The last Mad Max film, he did
Yep.
that.
Oh.
No, he got super rich doing movie soundtracks. He had every synth,
And he sold it all.
and he has a YouTube channel where he used to show them off and talk about them, and and then he pared down and he sold most of them.
He sold most of his
Yeah.
old stuff and is only like using new stuff now because the support sucks on old stuff, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, he had a giant fucking room full of stuff, like crazy, like a warehouse, like
Yeah.
madness.
Yeah, it was bigger than the Vintage Synth Museum by far.
Jesus.
Like you had all the Jupiters,
Mm-hmm.
and you had all the samplers.
So Cubase 12
Yeah, there was
is the first version of Cubase
Yeah.
that does not require a dongle.
And that's important.
That's the
It's the
biggest part of
biggest
it. And
upgrade.
that's
It
it.
is.
Other than that, it's the same garbage.
No
now.
more Hylock.
It has native M1 support now. And it also has this thing called MIDI remote script, which basically automatically detects your MIDI controllers and what they're capable of doing and everything like that, which is kind of cool. So that's a nice thing. I wish more DAW manufacturers would do that kind of thing. And and they just improved a lot of the features that are already built in there. And they also put a new limiter plugin called Razor and a new factory assortment of plugins for the Verve Piano. So yeah, that is now available for starting at $99 for the Elements and going up to $579 for the Pro version of it. And they do have upgrade and cross-skip grade packages available. Runs only on Big Sur and Monterey if you're in the Mac world, and it runs only on Windows 10 or 11 in 64-bit mode if you are in the Windows land.
Oh no, I'm still in Mojave.
I'm still running Windows 95.
I'm still running an Atari ST, so I can run Cubase just fine.
Cool.
So, yeah, a totally different version of it. It's weird. Do they still make Nuendo? I know some people used to love that thing.
I think they do.
I think they do.
Yeah.
Take cares on Linux.
Super weird. Interesting.
Yes. All right, next piece of news. Waldorf releases the Iridium keyboard version. Justin, tell us what you think about that.
Okay, the keyboard, so awesome. Really great. They implemented one knob per function. I fucking hate them. Now, to be fair, in the rack mount version, like, this would not be practical. I mean, it only makes sense because you have this real estate to do that. So that's fair. But like I said last year, this was my favorite synth to play with in 2021. And it is just a friggin' powerhouse. It does pretty much anything you want it to do. With all the different engines, it does FM, linear, FM. It's great. It's a beautiful synth. They've made the touchscreen better. It's just beautiful. If you have room for it, and this is your thing, yeah,
in the budget,
go for it. Yeah, of course, Waldorf stuff doesn't come cheap. Well, and that's not true. I mean, you can still pick up a Blofeld for crying out loud, and I think those things sound great still after all these years.
Yeah, but these are about $3,000 for the keyboard.
Yeah. This is why I never bought the Quantum.
Mm-hmm.
So when they came out, the only difference between the Quantum and the Iridium was the filters, right? It was the Quantum had analog filters. But, you know, when we were at Moogfest and even just listening to demos online, I don't feel like their filters had a lot of character, and that the Iridium filters in there that were analog emulation sounded fucking fine to me, you know? I mean, this is a very digital synth anyway. Yeah. That being said, I did buy the Waldorf M because I wanted that Curtis filter. Because what's his face? I can't think of his name. Noir Blanvie, you know, he's a guy, YouTuber. Sorry, I speak French, so I'm going to be obnoxious. But the problem is that Curtis filters, and he described it as spooky. And especially when you the release on that thing, it creates almost like a natural reverb, and it's creepy sounding, and it's so great. And it's the same that Curtis filter is pretty much anything, whether it's in the Prophet 5 or whether it's in the Ensoniq SQ80. And so that's why I brought the M, is because it does bring that extra thing to the game that the PPG did, which is we're going to put in this filter and it's going to sound really cool with these digital sounds. So that being said, the Iridium is its own thing. The filters sound great. It's beautiful. If you're willing to pay that much for it. If not, the desktop is much more reasonably priced.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, get yourself an Iridium keyboard today if you have the money and space in your place for that gigantic behemoth.
I just want to add that I'm with Justin about the Curtis filter. I love the sound of the Curtis
It does
filter.
sound really good.
Yeah, there's sounds on the M that I swear have reverb on them, and they don't. They just have long release filter on them.
Nice.
It's pretty interesting. Yeah.
All right. Arturia releases a granular effects processor called Fragments for $99. Jeff, what do you have to say for yourself?
It's pretty neat. It's I think it's I didn't download a demo or anything to try it out, but it seems like one of those things that has the real possibility of being very much a cool pony, but a one-trick pony for sure. And you know how everybody who got, you know, one of those, like the Roland TR8s that's got the scatter on it, they're like, oh, well, I've got it, brrr, brrr. And so like every piece of music somebody's recorded with a rolling TR-8 brrr, scatter all over the place.
Yeah.
And this feels like the kind of thing that at $99, it's not expensive enough that
Right.
people won't buy it, but it is expensive enough that people will feel like they need to justify using it. So I imagine we're going to hear a whole passel of music that's got this kind of a sound on it. And it is a
I
cool
don't
sound.
disagree with you at all, because after how much money I spent on some soft synths, you damn right I'm gonna fucking use them left and right.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because it's like it's an effect that's essentially a granular synth, and it kind of points out that granular synthesis in a way isn't anything more than an effect,
Yeah.
right? You're just putting samples or something through it and getting stuff. So, yeah, I mean, look, I love Arturia because I own the effect suite. I can buy it for $30 to pick it up, but
Yeah. I can't. All the samples that I heard from the video that Arturia had posted were very vocal heavy, but I think it could be really cool on drums.
Oh yeah, good call.
It could be really interesting as a send effect for drums, especially on fills or something that was automated up and down with an LFO on drums to add a lot of character to things, or to also to be sort of like a follow-on effect with reverb send or something. I think there's really cool ways to use it, but I think people are going to be very overt about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of tricks that I hear on commercials and in popular music where there's that trick using automation, compression, and reverb, like a heavy reverb, and it's just it gives you that sort of like, I can't explain the effect, but you hear it all the time, and it's like hugely fucking overused. It's not a bad sound, but oh my god. It's kind of like how 10 years ago it was like fucking dubstep type shit everywhere.
And side chain.
Everything was side chained, and everything was stutter edited. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And sidechaining's still a thing. It's just a little bit more discreet now.
Yes. So Womber says, for fuck's sake, please explain the effect.
It's difficult to explain it. So the way that I would so granular synthesis takes slices of a sample and cuts them into grains, and so each chunk of it is a grain, and you can change the size of the grains or the speed of them. And so essentially what this does is it takes a sound that goes through it, granulates that sound, and then recombines that with the sound, so it kind of sounds like a send or mixed effect, but it winds up creating this sort of broken, chopped up effect. I don't know. It's difficult to describe. You should go listen.
I'll try to do a granular effect right now.
Yep.
Yeah, let me try it again. So here I'm modifying the size of the grain. So it's a little bit like sampling, and it can be used for like time stretching. All right, that's enough of that. But it's a type of time stretching, and it can be granular. So actually, it's how like the modern DJ software works, where how it can, very smoothly, raise or lower the speed of a song without changing the pitch. It's using granular. So granular is really important. It's like Contact is mostly granular sampling unless you disable it.
Yeah.
But for granular effects, so you can kind of cloud things, so you can smooth things, you can stretch things, and you don't have to play the clouded back in the exact same order. So you can create textures. There's tons of things you can do with granular, and what they're doing with the implementation here, I guess you should do the demo.
Excellent. All right. So that's the fragments. Next bit of news, Erica Synths donating all proceeds from their sales of select synthesizers to the humanitarian efforts in the Ukraine. That's awesome. They've already donated quite a good chunk of change. I'm looking right now on their site.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot the other day when I looked.
Seriously.
It's looks like, I don't know, eyeballing something like 35,000 euros or so.
That's impressive. I hope that, our t-shirt sales are as good.
Yeah. Go buy the t-shirt. I haven't bought my t-shirt. People in the chat, if you want to support Ukraine,
Yeah.
we're not going to get anything from this. To be clear, we're making $0.
We're buying our own. We have
off
to
of
buy
it,
the
so-
t-shirts too.
We're just going to get
Yes,
satisfaction.
that is correct.
We're
But,
drinking our own Kool-Aid.
Yep.
here.
but if you're doing something, buy something from Erica and buy something from us. I think our t-shirts cost less than their cents, but I can always change the price. Hold my beer.
All right, so that's awesome. Speaking of awesome, currently you can get the IK Multimedia V80 soft synth for free for another 8 days. If you are a fan of the CS80 sound and you don't want to pay any money for it whatsoever, you've got this beautiful plugin. I know nothing about it, but it's free, so I'll probably download it and give it a try. Yeah.
It sounded good when I listened to the video. You could pair it up with Tim Schubert's polyphonic
Yeah, there you go.
Do What's It.
And then you can do what's
So
it.
the one thing, yeah. So the one thing I'll say about it is it's sampled.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it sounds very good, but it's not generative. It's sample based.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So it's like
I mean-
1.7 gigabytes, I think.
Yeah, I mean that's what they do.
Yeah.
That's what that Syntronic suite is. There's
Yeah,
like
and that's
a ton- their model.
Mhm.
So
I had a product that was years ago called Sample Moog that was like kind of interesting. Same deal. I think UVI does the same kind of thing.
Nice. So yeah, that's the IK Multimedia V80. Christoph, can you throw the link up there?
Yep.
Cool. Thank you. That way everyone can go and grab it because it is free. Yay.
Free as in beer or free as in
Free
speech?
as in beer.
Nice.
There's no such thing as free speech. Not on this show. I am the arbiter of all the speech. Anyway, next piece of news.
Well, you're the guy from Halo. I'm
You're
confused.
done.
Sorry.
Stop
Anyway, go
talking.
Oh, you're the arbiter in your floating chair.
please, sir, I want some more.
TAL Software releases the TAL Drum. I think it was known as a new, easy-to-use, gimmick-free drum sampler plugin. Basically says what it does on the package. It gives you 32 assignable multi-layer pads, internal resampling. It looks like a good classic drum pad. I love the interface. It's pretty slick, and it's going for currently 20% off the discount, 20% off its regular price, so it's going for about $60. It's got a lot of features. Christoph, you posted this, didn't you not?
I think so, yeah. So it's similar to Battery. Importantly, this does not have the TAL Sampler's Moolah compression. So this isn't going to replace an SP1200. So if you're trying to get that SP1200 sound, you'll want to get the TAL Sampler. But this is a dedicated, drum sampler, and it has different functions. I believe that the looping and other things are more like Battery. So it is definitely more drum-centric. So it would complement TAL Sampler well. So if you're looking for a drum sampler, this is an affordable drum sampler from a company that's known for making very high-quality plugins.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep. So to give a quick example of something that's really handy on a drum sampler compared to a regular sampler, besides the easy way of dropping your samples into a 16-pad layout instead of having to assign them to MIDI keys, is that drum samplers, you can turn your envelopes off, which is very important since your samples probably already have the envelope recorded in the sample. So that's what made me start using battery very heavily, was the ability to turn the envelopes off completely, which was something I found lacking in many hardware samplers.
Interesting.
Yep. And unlike battery, this one will not have Native Instruments going, your license no longer is valid.
Yeah.
Because we would like more money.
Every 5
And
minutes.
as far as I know, they
Please
have
give
been
it
recently
to
bought
us.
out by a conglomerate.
Both fair points.
Yeah.
Cool, and it's the price is decent on that too. $60 for
Yep.
for like a battery style drum, which battery is, even though Native Instruments can be the devil sometimes, the battery is a great drum machine.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's very, very
You know,
good.
battery introduces some features that I don't have on my other samplers, like the ability to adjust or put in, like type in the number of loops that you want something to do. That's a really creative thing for like mangling your sound. Say, yeah, all right, get to here, then play it 27 times, and then continue to the rest of the sample. That's wonderful.
Yeah, agree.
Yep.
All right, cool. So the next piece of news is our good friends at Moog celebrated the 1-year anniversary of Tangents by releasing a firmware update for the Subharmonicon.
Oh, wait, one last thing. The Tel sampler, it's 20% off 60.
Oh, okay. So it's like $40.
48 plus
Nice.
tax.
That's
Yeah.
a
So,
good deal. $48. There you go. All right, moving on.
all right, back to Moog.
All right, back to Moog. Back to the Subharmonicon. This is the Moog semi-modular analog polyrhythmic synthesizer that was a kit build at a Moog Fest for a while, and they brought it into production. Very fun way of doing taking a very simple sequencer and making it do all kinds of weird, crazy stuff by making it polyrhythmic. This
And the subharmonic
and the
oscillators,
subharmonic
too.
oscillators, which makes things even more weird. It's just kind of a weird sounding, very unique for a Moog synth, and it takes a little bit to get your head around it, but once you do, it's really fun. So yeah, we're looking at MIDI pitch bend, MIDI note transposition, and they fixed the sequencer of clock behavior because now it's in phase. It was actually like delayed by a 1 o'clock pulse beforehand, and they've since fixed that. So it's a free download. Install it with the you have a MIDI, one of those MIDI 1/8" jacks that you have to plug in, but once you get that in, you're all set to go. So yeah, thank you, Moog. We appreciate that. And finally tonight, this just happened yesterday, Apple has released a new Mac called the Mac Studio. This thing is insane. It's the kind of a step between a Mac Mini and a Mac Pro. It's running the new M1 chips, either the M1 Pro or the brand new M1 Ultra, or the M1 Max or the M1 Ultra. The difference between those two is the M1 Max is a 10-core CPU. The M1 Ultra is a 20 20-core CPU, which is fucking ridiculous. Your GPU is up to 64 cores. As opposed to 32 cores, it'll do 128 gigabytes of unified memory, and it's got an 800 gigabyte per second memory bandwidth. And
This thing is sick.
it's ridiculous. It's
Can it play
fucking
Crisis?
ridiculous. It's got a shit ton of I/O on it as well. So the thing is about looks like 2 Mac Minis stacked on top of each other. It's 3.7 inches tall by 7.7 inches wide. So you can fit it, wherever. It's got let's see here. It's got 4 Thunderbolt 4 connectors. It's got the 10 gigabit Ethernet. It's got 2 USB adapters, HDMI, headphone jack, 2 USB-C adapter plugs, and a SD card slot.
And the SD card
It's on
slot
the
is
fucking
on the
front of it.
front.
Oh, that's
It's
cool.
almost like
That's
they know
plus
how
there.
people use computers. They put it on the front. This is the first time in 20 years Apple's put
As
something
well
on
as
the
the
front of a
USB
computer.
connectors
It's
are on the front
amazing.
as well.
Yeah.
Holy
Right?
shit.
Brilliant. Oh,
Right.
that's
So,
worth the money right there, I guess.
Now, Andrew, I mean, in your day job, I mean, this is your bailiwick, so I'll let you run with this. But I'm just going to speak anecdotally about my experience with the M1 Mini, and that is that thing obviously doesn't have as many cores as this, although I did max out the RAM to whatever 64. That thing is ridiculous. Even running Studio One in Rosetta, I cannot make it break.
Yeah.
So God knows what this thing can do. I mean, if you're doing AV stuff or, animation or editing, I'm sure the things besides music that require more power. But good Lord.
So you can, like, the graphics power on this thing, if you decide to go fucking nuts on it, you can run 4 5K displays and a 4K television off of this thing, and
Good
do all your
Lord.
stupid graphics and make the world explode or whatever that you want to do as far as that's concerned. So this thing, I'm pretty sure I'm going to start seeing this with a lot of my photography clients and stuff like that, using these on their photo stations and stuff like that. But it's just a kind of a ridiculous amount of power for what it is. And it's one of the things that M1 just continues to blow my mind with is how much processing they're doing with so little power in the end.
Yeah. It's so quiet. It doesn't get hot. I mean, my old Mac Mini, I could cook a fucking egg on the top of that thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Do you think they're competing with themselves a little? I mean, in the sense that, the high-end server market, people that maybe felt there was no in-between, now there's an in-between.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're not really competing with themselves because people will still buy their shit, obviously.
Right.
They'll buy this. You know what I mean? That there might be, hurting their own high-end market a little bit.
Intel has their ARM-based processor now as well that they came out with. So I think that you're going to start seeing more of that whole thing. But they're only putting their ARM-based processors in laptops, so they're not putting these things in any kind of desktops as of right now.
Right.
But in a way, yes, I do think that because like the Mac Pro is so expensive. I mean, you're talking like $5K, but the Mac Pro does give you modularity as far as like your graphics and stuff like that. And in the end, one of the things that they're not doing with these things is that you've got integrated memory, so it's being shared across everything.
Right.
So your graphics and everything like that is good to be shared with like the same RAM that's running your Microsoft Word or whatever. So that's something to think about as well, which is why it's always like, get more memory. Now, are you going to notice those kinds of things? It depends on what you're doing. We, as musicians, if we're using a computer to do stuff, our plugins and stuff like that can be pretty CPU intensive.
Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, other than that, I'm rarely multitasking.
Right.
I mean, it can be a non-preemptive operating system for all I care
Right.
when I'm using my DOS.
Yeah.
It's like,
No, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, it's exciting. It's cool to see this stuff. It's interesting to see how they are implementing the M1 and how things are going to be moving toward the future. This is the year that they phase out all the Intel. So there's the only hardware they have left that they need to upgrade is the Mac Pro at this point.
And the some variations of
Actually,
the
they
iMac.
phased out the 27-inch iMac completely yesterday. Yeah. So
Oh,
the only iMac, the only
JK.
thing that they do sell Intel Mac Minis. Those are still available. And
Yeah.
other than that, it's the Mac Pro is the only other thing that's Intel. Everything else is switched over completely as far as but they sell M1 Mac Minis as well.
Yeah. I bet when the new Mac Pros come out, this is going to make a lot more sense for what it's worth. Like, I mean, I've bought a bunch of Mac Pros for our office, and we were paying like, I don't know, 18 grand a pop for the ones that we're putting in. I mean, they're a lot. And I was looking at one of these Mac Studio ones as a potential upgrade for my iMac from 1721 or whenever it was made. And the most like baller edition of the Studio that you can get, like, I'm about to say this number like it's not a giant number, it's a giant number, but it's $8 grand. Like, you cannot spend more than $8,000 on one. And probably less than $8,000 is very good for almost everybody. You know, so whereas on the Mac Pro, you know, what could you not spend more than? I can't remember what the top end of it is. It's like $20-some thousand. So there is kind of this like weird middle zone that for some people it might not be.
Yeah, I mean, you're not rasterizing what are. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, that's the like if you're not at that extreme end, there's a whole swath of people that just needed that extra boost and had no choice but to go to the waste bin because, you know, it was the only other step up.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens when they do that, but I think that it's probably going to make a lot of sense. I would definitely consider doing sort of like the, I don't know, like the $5,000 version.
I did one of my photo studios updated to the M1 Max 16-inch MacBook Pros. And those things are so ridiculously powerful. And you know what they're doing, I mean, they're doing stuff that's more RAM intensive than CPU intensive, because Photoshop is a very CPU intensive program.
Sure is.
But the nice thing about that is you can fudge that if you have a solid state drive. You don't really notice it, because if it starts using the hard drive for swapping, then it doesn't, you know, because it's a solid state drive. It's just, it looks like it's using RAM anyway. So you don't notice it like you did back in the day when your spinny hard drive would start like chunking things down.
Old enough to RAM disk.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But the M1 Max is just ridiculous. They do a lot of focus stacking in photos, which is a very CPU intensive task to do, where they're taking like 75, 80 images and focus stacking these things on top of each other to do like these ridiculous HDR images for jewelry and everything like that. And they had an iMac Pro that they had on a cart that they would just roll over to do this stuff, and then because they're
like the
you know, and like the Dell cart back in the day. And then we set up, we got the first M1 Max, and they decided just to try it on the laptop, and the thing did it faster than the iMac Pro that they had sitting around there by like 30% faster. And it wasn't even breaking a sweat. Like, I pulled up the CPU meter and it's just like, give me more, daddy, you know, and it was just nuts. So, I mean, these things, even if you get the base model of the Mac Studio, you're still going to be fine, I think, you know?
Now they can use the for dim sum. So it's
exactly
a good win,
right.
You know?
So the Mac Studio, a pretty killer piece of hardware. The other thing I did not put in here, and I should have, and it's the other piece of Apple news they released yesterday, is that they just put out the iPad Air as an M1. So they put the M1 chip into the iPad Air. And the reason why that's kind of a big deal is it gives me hope, at least, that they're going to uncripple iPad OS, because iPad OS in its current form is not really using all what the iPads can do, especially if they have the new M1 chips, because they actually they all have, like, the M1 chips all have baseline 4 gigabytes of RAM, and iPad OS only addresses 2 gigabytes.
That seems like a mistake.
But they only had the M1. The M1 was only available in the Pro until now, and the iPad Air is a lot more consumers will pick that up. So it's my hope that, like, iPad OS 16 will give us more power and speed and ability to do certain things and stuff like that. I'm not saying I want to run Mac applications on my iPad because I really don't, but it would be nice to be able to use certain features that are currently not really available to it because of that speed block.
Yeah.
Well, it's weird because Microsoft and Intel have given them a run for their money with, their own sort of like, is it a tablet or is it is it a laptop?
Sure.
Kind of, that's kind of been something that until recently I don't feel Apple was really dealing with. Like, I don't think they considered it to be a real
Right.
threat.
And I still don't think that they do. I think that the Windows Surface device it's still just running Windows. It's a Windows computer. You can dress it up, but it's still a Windows computer in the end. It's not, and I think that what Apple's trying to do is they're trying to keep those things separate. They want people to treat the tablet like a tablet, because one of the things that a desktop operating system sucks with is things like multi-touch. The interface itself is not friendly toward that kind of thing. Whereas a tablet-based operating system is built around the idea that you're going to use these 10 little digits as opposed to a mouse and keyboard. But that being said, I think that they've started to realize the fact that some people do want to use a mouse and keyboard, and certain tasks do work well with a mouse and keyboard versus your fingers and stuff like that. And myself, I use an iPad only for my day job. I don't use a computer anymore. And I get along great with just that.
Right, but you probably use an external keyboard rig for some of the time.
Well, I mean, I have like the smart folio with the keyboard and the trackpad on there. But I'm not using I'm not using Mac OS for anything anymore. I'm literally using iPad OS because I can do everything through that. I can do remote sessions. I can open up a terminal window and SSH into things and stuff like that. I can use it like I'm using a computer.
I still hate typing a touchpad. Yeah. I really fucking hate it. I do it out of necessity.
Yeah. No, I'm the same boat.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see, and I'm hoping that iPad OS 16 will be a little bit less crippled and give us a little bit more power. And it'll be handy, especially like with a lot of musicians and stuff like that are starting to lean more toward using mobile devices and stuff for their music creation. And iPad has been pretty good as far as for portable music making. And it'll be exciting to see if they move that further, especially with the M1 processor. I'd love to see something like Logic on the iPad.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's my rant. Finally, I got to say something. No, just kidding.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's what I do. So yeah, those are all of our news. We're only a half hour over. God, this feels like a Lord of the Rings movie. Just when you thought it was going to end, something else happens.
This is the LARPer version with the super extended ending.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no, the Eagles
saved them. Spoiler alert, the Eagles saved them.
What's really exciting is that Andrew's going to release the director's edition of the Anniversary Tangents on YouTube.
It's true, and that's going to be 6 hours long. So once we go off the air, we're going to be up for the rest of the night recording more news stories.
Are you gonna?
We just Paul stretch it.
You got to put back the Tom Bombadil stuff because I feel like you shouldn't have cut that out.
No doubt. I got the CGI working right now. The Tangent CGI team is hard at work in the background, putting the Tom Bombadil guest sequence in there.
We're also going to do a Dune cut where the music behind us blasts it so you can't really make out what we're saying.
Yes. And all of our eyes will suddenly not be blue.
Probably appropriate.
It'll be weird.
And we're also going to do a Game of Thrones version where it's so dark you can't hear us.
Perfect.
There you go. That's the.
It was lovely.
That was awesome.
Get a little feel of it in.
Jesus. Well, all right.
Good.
So that was our 1 year anniversary extended episode of Tangents as we went off the rails a lot, which was fantastic. I'm so tired and I got to get up early tomorrow. I knew this was going to happen. Anyway, thank you all for joining. Justin, Christoph, Robin, Jeff. I don't think I looked at the right direction when I did those. It's hard to do with a mirror reflection. It's wonderful having you all on. Christoph, I hope you have a lovely time in California in a few weeks. The rest of us will be here. Maybe I'll be able to convince Robin to come back if she doesn't hate us too much. Sweet, she just nodded. Everyone saw that. That means she can't cancel now.
That's legally binding.
Yep.
We just
Usually is. Yep.
keep sending her high quality bottles of whiskey so she can tolerate us. I think
That'll
that's-
do it. Yeah. That works.
I need a high quality bottle of whiskey so I can handle myself too. God.
Hey, you want that nice Japanese scotch? That
Oh
was really,
yeah,
really
the
good.
Toki. Yeah, that is good stuff. Have you had that, Robin?
No, I have not. But that sounds
Oh, yeah, it's
amazing.
actually pretty affordable. You can get it at most liquor stores. It's the Suntory Toki. It's a nice, smooth drinking whiskey.
Okay.
Yes.
Noted.
Come on, God. You got a drawer full of booze there, Chris?
Yes, I'm prepared.
That's what I'm doing wrong. I don't have it
Well,
immediately
did
accessible
you
in my
set
bed.
up
Or
your-
maybe that's right.
Did you set up your rig on top of a mini bar, or what the fuck's going on?
Oh my gosh. Brilliant.
So I have a bass speaker to my left, and I have liquor bottles on top of it, and I have shot redemptions during my Thursday streams.
Nice. That
So I'm
sounds
prepared.
like a 80s hairband lyric for just a second, because you were describing what was on your left and your right. And anyway,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Clowns to the left of you, jokers to the right.
I won't actually quote that Poison lyric because it'll get me canceled. But so
yeah,
won't
I
say
would
it.
actually probably fire you from the show if you did that.
Yeah, because Poison was a terrible band that did terrible things. and
Yes.
I'm sorry. I had nothing to do with them at all.
Anyway, thank you all for joining us for a wonderful, exciting 1 year anniversary. Thank you to my co-hosts. It was awesome hanging out with you guys as always. I'm looking forward to doing it again because I live a lonely life. We are going to be rating Beta Units tonight, who is on.
Nice.
So we're going to go off to Beta Units, and I will continue to throw Last Starfighter quotes at him, much to his chagrin, because it was one of my favorite movies as a kid. Anyway,
Soon the frontier will be down.
and Coda and
I will dump the
Rylos
sky with
will be.
ashes.
Yes, thank you. Takes more than a scepter to rule, even on Rylos.
Dude, yeah, a movie for the record.
It really was. What do we
Yes.
do now? We die. That's my should have faded out, but instead I just pushed the button to start to line up the raid.
Well, we'll do it.
We just awkwardly sit here like,
I'll-
well, I guess we'll
I'll
die
set you up
soon.
to do it again.
All right. Ready?
What do we do now?
Go.
We die.